In the quiet darkness of space, across galaxies that stretched beyond imagination, there lived a warrior race whose potential remained dormant for generations. The Saiyans carried within them something ancient, something sleeping, waiting for the right moment to awaken. And when that moment came, it changed everything. Before you drift into sleep, you're welcome to subscribe for more calm Dragon Ball stories. And if you feel like it, tell me where you're listening from tonight. Tonight, we'll explore the journey of each warrior who discovered this hidden strength, one transformation at a time, beginning with a legend that predates recorded history itself. The tale of Super Saiyan began not with warriors we know, but with whispers passed down through countless centuries. Ancient Saiyans spoke of a transformation so powerful it could shake the foundations of reality itself. This legend described a warrior whose hair would turn golden, whose eyes would blaze with emerald fire, whose strength would multiply beyond comprehension. For over 1,000 years, this story was told around fires on planet Vegeta, shared between soldiers during campaigns across distant worlds, repeated so many times that most Saiyans dismissed it entirely as myth. The original Super Saiyan, according to these ancient stories, was consumed by rage so intense it burned like a star-going supernova. His power had no equal anywhere in the universe at that time. Every opponent who faced him was destroyed within moments, yet this warrior could not control what he had become. The transformation overtook him completely, turning him into something more monster than man. His fury was so overwhelming that he eventually destroyed himself, unable to contain the energy that coursed through his veins like molten fire. Some historians believe this ancient warrior was named Yamoshi, a Saiyan who lived so long ago that his true story has been lost to the passage of time. Yamoshi was said to be righteous, unlike the typical Saiyan warrior who lived only for battle and conquest. He fought against the evil Saiyans of his era, standing alone against an entire civilization that had grown corrupt and cruel. His transformation came not from selfish anger, but from a desperate need to protect those who could not protect themselves. The legend tells us that Yamoshi gathered 5 other righteous Saiyans and performed a ritual that elevated him beyond Super Saiyan God. This transformation was different from the golden-haired form that would come later. It changed his very essence, connecting him to divine energy that existed beyond mortal understanding. But even this power was not enough to save his people from themselves. Yamoshi fell in battle, and his spirit wandered the universe, searching for another righteous Saiyan who could inherit his strength. For centuries after Yamoshi's death, the Super Saiyan transformation remained dormant. Generations of Saiyans lived and died without ever witnessing the golden hair or emerald eyes described in their legends. The transformation became nothing more than a bedtime story told to Saiyan children, a fairy tale that adults smiled about but never truly believed. Even Prince Vegeta, heir to the Saiyan throne, considered it pure fiction for most of his life. Planet Vegeta itself was a harsh world that bred warriors from birth. Saiyan infants were sent to conquer planets before they could even walk properly. The strong survived and grew stronger, while the weak perished in distant corners of the galaxy. This brutal culture shaped every Saiyan, making them fierce and prideful, but also closing them off to the emotional depth required for transformation. They knew anger, yes, but they rarely knew loss, love, or the pure desperation that would later prove necessary. King Vegeta, ruler of all Saiyans, was considered the strongest warrior of his generation. His power was measured in the tens of thousands, far beyond what most Saiyans could ever achieve. Yet even he never approached the legendary transformation. He never questioned whether the legend might be real, never wondered if perhaps the ancient stories contained truth. His focus remained on military conquest and maintaining his position as the elite of the elite. Then came Frieza, the galactic emperor who saw the Saiyans as useful tools, but also as a potential threat. He had heard the same legends that the Saiyans dismissed, but unlike them, Frieza took these stories seriously. He understood that a Super Saiyan, if one ever appeared, could challenge his rule over the universe. This fear, this paranoia, led him to make a decision that would ultimately fulfill the very prophecy he sought to prevent. Frieza destroyed planet Vegeta in a single attack, obliterating the Saiyan homeworld and nearly every Saiyan in existence. Billions of warriors were extinguished in an instant, their potential erased before it could ever bloom. Only a handful of Saiyans survived scattered across the galaxy. Among them was a lowborn warrior named Kakarot, sent to Earth as an infant, and Prince Vegeta, who happened to be on a distant mission when his world ended. The destruction of their race set in motion events that would eventually prove the legend true, but it would take years, decades even, before the first modern Super Saiyan would emerge. The transformation required more than just power levels or combat experience. It demanded something deeper, something that most Saiyans had never truly felt before. On Earth, the Saiyan named Kakarot grew up with a different name. Goku, as he was called by his adoptive grandfather, developed into a warrior unlike any Saiyan before him. He learned kindness and compassion, emotions that most Saiyans would have considered weaknesses. Yet these very qualities, combined with his natural Saiyan strength, created a unique foundation for growth. He trained not out of pride or conquest, but from pure love of martial arts itself. Goku's journey towards Super Saiyan began long before he understood what he was reaching for. Each battle pushed him further. Each defeat taught him something new. Each victory brought him closer to that distant ceiling. He learned the Kaioken technique from King Kai, a method of multiplying his power beyond normal limits. This technique put immense strain on his body, but it also showed him that his current strength was not his final limitation. When Goku first heard about the Super Saiyan legend from Vegeta, he did not dismiss it as myth. Instead, he felt something stir within him, a recognition perhaps, an ancestral memory buried deep in his Saiyan blood. He wondered if such a transformation might be possible, if perhaps he could reach that legendary status himself, but he did not obsess over it the way Vegeta would. For Goku, it was simply another peak to climb, another challenge to overcome. The planet Namek became the stage where legend would finally become reality. Goku arrived on this alien world to find his friends in desperate danger. Frieza, the same tyrant who had destroyed planet Vegeta, was hunting for the Namekian Dragon Balls, seeking immortality to cement his rule forever. Goku fought through Frieza's forces, his power growing with each battle, his understanding of his own limits expanding. The fight against Frieza began almost playfully on Goku's part. He had trained in 100 times Earth's gravity during his journey to Namek, and the results were extraordinary. His base power had increased so dramatically that he could fight Frieza's first form without much difficulty. But Frieza had been holding back as well, restraining his true power behind multiple transformations of his own. As Frieza revealed his second form, then his third, then finally his fourth and final transformation, Goku was forced to push himself further than ever before. He used Kaioken times 10, multiplying his power to astronomical levels, but even this was not enough. Frieza in his final form was too strong, too fast, too ruthless. Goku had to reach for his ultimate technique, the Spirit Bomb, gathering energy from all life on Namek and the surrounding solar system. The Spirit Bomb was massive, a sphere of pure energy large enough to destroy entire planets. Goku hurled it at Frieza with all his remaining strength, and for a moment it seemed the battle was over. Frieza was consumed by the blast, driven deep into Namek's surface, seemingly defeated at last. Goku's friends celebrated their narrow victory, believing the nightmare had finally ended. But Frieza survived. Battered and furious, he emerged from the crater with murder in his eyes. He was no longer playing games or toying with his opponents. Frieza wanted revenge, wanted to make Goku suffer before killing him. He raised his hand and fired a death beam, not at Goku but at Piccolo, striking the Namekian down. Then Frieza turned his attention to Krillin, Goku's oldest friend, his first real companion on his martial arts journey. Frieza lifted Krillin into the air with telekinesis, suspending him helplessly above the battlefield. Krillin called out to Goku for help, his voice filled with terror as he felt Frieza's energy crushing him from all sides. Goku ran forward, reaching out desperately, but he was too far away. Frieza clenched his fist, and Krillin exploded, his body destroyed instantly, his life extinguished in a heartbeat. Something broke inside Goku in that moment. All the kindness he had learned on Earth, all the compassion and mercy fell away like a mask he had been wearing. What remained was pure Saiyan rage, unfiltered and absolute. His power began to spike uncontrollably, electricity crackling around his body in violent arcs. The ground beneath him started to crack and crumble, rocks floating upward as if gravity itself had been reversed. Gohan and Frieza watched in shock as Goku's hair began to stand on end. His dark eyes became blank, pupilless, as energy poured through him like a dam had burst. The sky above Namek darkened, responding to the surge of power being released. Goku's aura expanded outward in waves, each pulse stronger than the last, building towards something unprecedented. Then the transformation completed itself. Goku's black hair turned golden, standing up in sharp spikes. His eyes became teal-green, burning with intensity that was both familiar and completely alien. His aura shifted from white to a blazing gold that illuminated the entire battlefield. After 1,000 years, a Super Saiyan had finally appeared again. The power Goku felt was beyond anything he had imagined. His strength had multiplied by 50 times in an instant, elevating him to a level that made his previous battles seem like child's play. But more than just physical power, the transformation brought clarity. Despite his rage, despite the anger still burning in his chest, Goku remained himself. He was not consumed by the transformation the way the ancient Super Saiyan had been. This control came from Goku's Earth upbringing, from the values Grandpa Gohan had instilled in him as a child. He embraced his Saiyan heritage in this moment, accepting that he was a warrior from a proud race, but he also held on to his humanity, the kindness and mercy he had learned over years of protecting Earth. This balance allowed him to wield Super Saiyan without losing himself to its power. The battle that followed was one-sided in a way no one had expected. Frieza, who had seemed invincible moments before, was now outmatched. Goku moved faster than Frieza could follow, hit harder than Frieza could withstand, and remained calm while Frieza grew increasingly desperate. The Emperor who had ruled the universe through fear was being dismantled by a low-class Saiyan warrior. Goku's demeanor during this fight was different from his usual approach to battle. There was no joy in it, no excitement for the challenge. He fought with cold efficiency, putting Frieza down piece by piece. When Frieza tried to destroy Namek itself with a drilling energy attack to the planet's core, Goku allowed it, accepting that the battle would have a time limit. He knew he would win before the planet exploded. Even at the end, when Frieza was cut in half by his own energy disk and lay dying in Namek's lava, Goku showed mercy. He gave Frieza some of his own energy, enough to survive and escape the dying planet. This act of compassion, even after everything Frieza had done, showed that the Super Saiyan transformation had not changed who Goku fundamentally was. He could access this incredible power without becoming a monster. Goku's achievement of Super Saiyan sent ripples across the universe. News spread that a Saiyan had reached the legendary status that the myth was real after all. For the remaining Saiyans, this revelation changed everything. If one Saiyan could transform, then perhaps others could as well. The ceiling that had seemed absolute for over a millennium had suddenly been shattered. Prince Vegeta heard about Goku's transformation with a mixture of disbelief and fury. The idea that a low-class warrior had achieved what the Saiyan elite never could was unbearable to him. Vegeta's pride, already wounded by being weaker than Goku, was now completely shattered. He became obsessed with reaching Super Saiyan himself, determined to prove that he, the Prince of all Saiyans, deserved this power more than some third-class nobody. Vegeta's path to Super Saiyan was built on relentless training and stubborn pride. After returning to Earth and learning that Goku had not died on Namek, as everyone believed, Vegeta threw himself into brutal training regimens. He pushed his body to the absolute limit day after day, refusing to rest, refusing to accept that he might never reach the transformation. His Saiyan biology adapted to this punishment, growing stronger with each near-death experience. 3 years passed as Earth's defenders prepared for the arrival of the androids, artificial beings from the future that would supposedly destroy everything. Vegeta spent this entire time training in Capsule Corporation's gravity chamber, gradually increasing the intensity until he was working out under 450 times Earth's normal gravity. Every movement required immense willpower. Every technique pushed him to the edge of consciousness. The breakthrough came when Vegeta was at his lowest point emotionally. Despite all his training, despite all his pride, he still could not transform. He had pushed his body beyond what most Saiyans could endure, had brought himself to death's door repeatedly, but the golden hair remained out of reach. The frustration, the shame of being surpassed by Goku, the humiliation of watching a low-class warrior achieve what he could not, all of it built up inside him. Vegeta screamed his rage into the empty gravity chamber, not caring who heard, not caring about maintaining his cold exterior anymore. All his pride, all his arrogance, everything that made him Prince Vegeta seemed worthless if he could not reach this transformation. And in that moment of absolute desperation, when his pride finally broke completely, the barrier shattered. Golden light exploded from Vegeta's body, filling the gravity chamber with blinding radiance. His hair spiked upward, turning from black to gold in an instant. His eyes shifted to teal green, blazing with triumph and vindication. Vegeta had finally done it, had finally proven that he too could reach the legendary status. The Prince of all Saiyans had become a Super Saiyan through sheer determination and wounded pride. When Vegeta first revealed his transformation to the others, he did so with characteristic arrogance. Android 19 was draining Goku's energy, taking advantage of the heart virus that weakened the Super Saiyan who had defeated Frieza. The android seemed unstoppable, but Vegeta appeared and immediately transformed, showing off his golden hair with obvious pride. He destroyed Android 19 effortlessly, proving that his power as a Super Saiyan matched or even exceeded Goku's. Vegeta's achievement opened the door for other Saiyans to believe transformation was possible. If both Goku and Vegeta could reach this level, then perhaps the ceiling was lower than anyone had thought. Perhaps all that was needed was the right emotional trigger, the right amount of power, the right circumstances. The legend was no longer about chosen ones or special bloodlines. It was about potential that any Saiyan might unlock. From the future timeline, another Saiyan had already discovered this truth. Trunks, the half-Saiyan son of Vegeta and Bulma, had transformed into Super Saiyan years before his father did, though in a different timeline where Goku was dead and the androids had destroyed everything. Trunks' transformation came from witnessing loss, from watching his mentor and best friend die while he was powerless to help. In that future timeline, Gohan had been the only warrior strong enough to fight the androids. He trained young Trunks, teaching him everything he knew about combat and energy manipulation. The two of them faced the androids together whenever the murderous machines attacked cities and towns. But Gohan was fighting a losing battle, gradually being worn down by injuries that never fully healed. The day came when Gohan went out to fight the androids, alone, telling Trunks to stay behind because he was not ready yet. Trunks waited anxiously, knowing something was wrong, feeling that Gohan was in terrible danger. When he finally disobeyed and went searching for his mentor, he found Gohan's body in the rain, broken and lifeless, one arm already lost from a previous battle. Trunks' grief and rage in that moment were absolute. He screamed Gohan's name, begging him to wake up, refusing to accept that his teacher was gone. The emotional pain of this loss triggered his transformation, his hair turning gold as tears streamed down his face. He had become a Super Saiyan, but it had cost him everything. The power came too late to save the one person he wanted to protect most. When Trunks traveled back in time to warn the others about the android threat, he was already a Super Saiyan, though his power was still developing. His first transformation in the main timeline occurred when he confronted Frieza and King Cold after they arrived on Earth seeking revenge against Goku. Trunks transformed casually, almost effortlessly, showing how far he had come in his training. Trunks defeated Frieza and King Cold with such ease that it shocked the other Z fighters. This mysterious young man with purple hair had just destroyed the tyrant who once required a Super Saiyan to defeat, and he did it without breaking a sweat. His power came from years of desperate survival in a timeline where he was Earth's only defender, where every battle could be his last. The mechanics of Trunks' transformation revealed something important about Super Saiyan biology. He was only half Saiyan, his mother being fully human, yet he could still transform just as easily as pure-blooded Saiyans. This suggested that the transformation was not about genetic purity, but about tapping into Saiyan potential that existed even in hybrid warriors. If anything, hybrid Saiyans seem to have certain advantages. Gohan, Goku's son, demonstrated this hybrid advantage more clearly than anyone. Despite being gentle and preferring scholarly pursuits over fighting, Gohan possessed latent power that exceeded even his father's. From early childhood, Gohan had shown the ability to access incredible strength when sufficiently enraged or when protecting others. His potential was recognized by Piccolo, Krillin, Vegeta, and countless enemies who sensed something extraordinary sleeping inside him. Gohan's journey towards Super Saiyan began on Namek, where he fought alongside Krillin and later Vegeta against Frieza's forces. He witnessed terrible violence, saw his friends hurt, felt powerless against enemies far stronger than himself. Each of these experiences planted seeds of growth, pushing his power higher little by little. By the time Goku arrived on Namek, Gohan's strength had multiplied several times over from where it started. After returning to Earth, Gohan trained with Goku in preparation for the android threat. 3 years of training, learning techniques and forms, sparring against his father who could now transform into Super Saiyan at will. Gohan absorbed everything Goku taught him, his hybrid nature making it easier for him to learn and adapt. Yet the transformation still eluded him, staying just out of reach despite his growing power. The Cell Games became Gohan's defining moment, the crucible that would forge him into something unprecedented. Cell, a bioengineered monster created from the cells of the universe's greatest warriors, had achieved his perfect form and challenged Earth to a tournament. Goku fought Cell first, showing his son how to battle at the highest level, but ultimately Goku surrendered and nominated Gohan as his replacement. Gohan did not want to fight. Despite all his training, despite his hidden power, he preferred peace and hated violence. He fought defensively against Cell, refusing to unleash his full strength even though his father kept encouraging him to let go and show what he could really do. Goku understood something that Gohan did not yet realize, that when the boy's anger was triggered, his power eclipsed everyone's. Cell grew frustrated with Gohan's reluctance to fight seriously and created miniature versions of himself called Cell Juniors. These smaller but still incredibly powerful creatures attacked the other Z fighters, beating them mercilessly while Gohan watched in horror. His friends and family were being tortured, and he could stop it if he would just access the power sleeping inside him. Still, Gohan hesitated. Even seeing his loved ones hurt was not enough to break through his gentle nature. Cell decided more drastic measures were needed and targeted Android 16, the peaceful android who had befriended Gohan during the preceding days. Cell crushed 16's body, leaving only the head intact. 16 used his final moments to speak to Gohan, telling him it was okay to fight when protecting nature and life itself. Cell crushed 16's head under his foot, silencing him forever. And finally, something snapped inside Gohan. His power exploded outward in a massive surge that dwarfed anything the Z fighters had seen before. Lightning crackled around him as his hair stood up, his aura building and building. When the transformation completed, Gohan had become not just a Super Saiyan, but a Super Saiyan 2, skipping the first level entirely in his rage. Gohan's power in this state was so overwhelming that Cell could not comprehend it. The perfect being who had seemed invincible moments before was now being toyed with effortlessly. Gohan moved with casual speed, hit with devastating force, and remained eerily calm despite the anger that had triggered his transformation. His hybrid nature had granted him access to power beyond what full-blooded Saiyans could reach. The ease with which Gohan transformed, and the level he achieved on his first try, supported theories about hybrid Saiyans having advantages over pure bloods. Their human half gave them greater emotional depth, making it easier to access the emotional triggers needed for transformation. Their Saiyan half still provided the biology necessary for the change. Together, these created warriors with incredible potential. Goten, Gohan's younger brother, would prove this theory even more dramatically. Goten was born after Goku died fighting Cell, growing up without a father for his early years. Chi-Chi trained him in basic martial arts from a young age, and Goten showed natural talent that surpassed even Gohan's early ability. His power grew rapidly despite no formal training, his hybrid genetics giving him a head start. When Gohan returned from high school one day, he discovered Goten sparring with Chi-Chi in the yard. To his complete shock, Goten transformed into a Super Saiyan casually during the practice session, his golden hair spiking up as naturally as breathing. Goten was only 7 years old at the time, making him the youngest Super Saiyan ever recorded. He had achieved the transformation through simple training without any traumatic trigger or life-threatening situation. Goten's easy transformation suggested that Super Saiyan was becoming less legendary with each generation. The genetic changes that occurred when Goku and Vegeta transformed seemed to pass down to their children, making it easier for the next generation to access the same power. What had taken 1,000 years to reappear now came naturally to children barely old enough to attend school. Trunks, the son of Vegeta and Bulma in the main timeline, demonstrated this same ease of transformation. Unlike his future counterpart, this Trunks grew up in peacetime with both parents alive. Vegeta trained him rigorously from early childhood, pushing him the way Saiyan children were traditionally pushed. Trunks responded to this training by transforming into Super Saiyan at age 8, just slightly older than Goten but still remarkably young. The friendship between Goten and Trunks mirrored the rivalry between their fathers. Though with far less hostility, they trained together, sparred constantly, and pushed each other to improve. Both could transform into Super Saiyan at will by the time they were old enough to enter the World Martial Arts Tournament. Their power as children exceeded what most adult humans could achieve in several lifetimes. During the Majin Buu crisis, Goten and Trunks learned the fusion dance, a technique that combined two warriors into a single being with multiplied power. When they fused, they created Gotenks, a warrior who inherited the Super Saiyan ability from both component fighters. Gotenks could transform the moment he was created, his power already at Super Saiyan level before adding any additional transformations. Gotenks represented something unique in Super Saiyan history. He was not a natural-born Saiyan but a fusion, a temporary being created through technique rather than biology. Yet he could still access Super Saiyan transformations, even pushing beyond to Super Saiyan 3. This suggested that the transformation was tied to Saiyan energy rather than strict biological requirements. As long as Saiyan power was present, transformation was possible. The fusion technique worked for adult Saiyans as well. Goku and Vegeta, when fused using the Potara earrings during the Buu crisis, created Vegito, a being whose base power already exceeded their individual Super Saiyan forms. When Vegito transformed into Super Saiyan himself, his power became so astronomical that Majin Buu, who had absorbed Gohan and other fighters, was completely outmatched. Vegito toyed with Super Buu effortlessly, moving faster than the monster could perceive, hitting with enough force to shake the entire dimension they were fighting in. His power as a Super Saiyan fusion was beyond calculation, beyond anything the universe had seen before. He could have destroyed Buu instantly, but chose to get absorbed on purpose, hoping to rescue the others trapped inside the creature. Later, when fighting a different threat, Goku and Vegeta fused again using the fusion dance instead of the Potara earrings. This created Gogeta, a slightly different fusion with similar overwhelming power. Gogeta transformed into Super Saiyan immediately upon creation, his golden aura blazing bright enough to illuminate entire landscapes. Like Vegito, his power in this form made him virtually unstoppable. These fusions demonstrated that Super Saiyan had evolved from a legendary transformation into a standard tool that warriors could combine with other techniques. The rarity had disappeared, replaced by accessibility. What once seemed impossible now served as merely the first step toward even greater heights. The transformation that ended the Frieza saga had become the baseline for serious combat. If you're still awake halfway through, maybe subscribe before you drift off and tell me what time it is where you're watching from. Yet the transformation's prevalence in Goku's timeline did not mean every universe possessed Super Saiyans. In Universe 6, the twin universe to Universe 7 where Earth and the Saiyans existed, the Saiyan race had evolved differently. They still existed, but had developed along a separate path, one that emphasized different values and created different warrior cultures. Universe 6 Saiyans were described as evolved versions of their Universe 7 counterparts. They no longer possessed tails, that vestigial appendage that allowed transformation into great apes under full moons. They were generally more peaceful, working as protectors of their universe rather than conquerors. Their natural power levels were substantial, but none had achieved Super Saiyan until they learned it was possible. Kaba, a young Saiyan warrior from Universe 6, first learned about Super Saiyan during the Tournament of Destroyers. He faced Vegeta in combat and was completely outmatched when Vegeta transformed. The golden hair and overwhelming power confused Kaba, since no Saiyan in his universe had ever displayed such an ability. Vegeta explained the transformation and offered to teach Kaba how to access it. Vegeta's teaching method was characteristically harsh. He threatened to destroy planet Sadala, the Universe 6 Saiyan homeworld, and insulted Kaba's pride as a warrior. This deliberate cruelty was designed to trigger the anger necessary for transformation. Kaba, desperate to protect his planet and people, felt rage building inside him for the first time in his life. That rage became the key that unlocked his Saiyan potential. Golden light exploded around Kaba as he transformed, his power multiplying instantly. His polite, gentle demeanor vanished temporarily, replaced by the fierce intensity that came with Super Saiyan. Vegeta smiled, satisfied that his teaching method had worked, then powered down and explained that Kaba should remember this feeling so he could transform at will in the future. The lesson was harsh but effective. Kaba's transformation proved that Universe 6 Saiyans possessed the same potential as their Universe 7 counterparts, despite evolutionary differences. The lack of tails did not prevent transformation, nor did their peaceful culture make them incapable of accessing the necessary emotions. Once they understood transformation was possible and learned the emotional key, they could achieve it just as easily. This ease of transformation became controversial among fans when Kaba taught two other Universe 6 Saiyans how to transform. Caulifla, a female Saiyan with immense natural talent, learned about Super Saiyan from Kaba and immediately wanted to try it herself. Kaba explained the technique, describing how to focus energy in the back and create a tingling sensation between the shoulder blades. Caulifla attempted the transformation using Kaba's description, focusing her energy the way he suggested. Within moments she began to succeed, her power spiking as golden light flickered around her body. Her first attempt was incomplete, but on her second try she achieved full Super Saiyan transformation. The entire process took her mere minutes, compared to the years of struggle that Goku and Vegeta had endured. This rapid achievement frustrated many observers who felt it cheapened the transformation's significance. Goku had needed to witness his best friend's death, Vegeta had needed years of brutal training and complete psychological breakdown, future Trunks had needed to find his mentor dead, yet Caulifla transformed by focusing energy in her back, making it seem almost trivial. The explanation for this is related to S-cells, a concept introduced by Akira Toriyama himself. S-cells were special cells that existed in Saiyan bodies, and their concentration determined how easily a Saiyan could transform. Living peacefully increased S-cell production, while constant battle and stress decreased them. Universe 6 Saiyans, living in relative peace, had high S cell counts naturally. Additionally, Universe 6 Saiyans were explicitly stated to be evolved versions of Universe 7 Saiyans. Their biology had changed over generations of different lifestyle and culture. These evolutionary changes apparently included modifications that made accessing transformations easier once the technique was understood. They did not need the same emotional trauma because their bodies were built differently. Caulifla's natural talent also played a role in her quick transformation. She was described as a fighting prodigy even among Saiyans, someone whose potential exceeded normal limits. When she learned something was possible, she could usually figure out how to do it quickly. Super Saiyan was just another technique to master in her mind, not a mythical legend beyond her reach. Kale, Caulifla's protege and close friend, struggled more with the transformation despite being taught the same technique. Her self-esteem issues and timid personality made it difficult for her to access the necessary confidence and energy. Caulifla encouraged her repeatedly, trying to help her transform the way Kaba had helped Caulifla, but Kale could not quite manage it. During the Tournament of Power, Kale finally transformed, but not into standard Super Saiyan. Her transformation became a berserker form, a mutation of Super Saiyan that emphasized raw power over control. Her body bulked up dramatically, her eyes became pure white without pupils, and her power skyrocketed to levels that challenged even Super Saiyan Blue. This berserker state was closer to the legendary Super Saiyan of ancient times. Kale's berserker form rampaged across the Tournament of Power arena, attacking anyone in her path with overwhelming force. She was not herself in this state, consumed by jealousy and rage that had been suppressed for too long. Caulifla tried to reach her, to bring her back to herself, and eventually succeeded by showing complete faith in Kale's strength and value as a person. With Caulifla's support, Kale learned to control her berserker transformation, accessing its power without losing her mind to rage. This control allowed her to use the form strategically rather than as a last resort. She became one of Universe 6's most powerful warriors, her controlled berserker state rivaling the strength of divine transformations. When Caulifla and Kale fused using the Patara earrings during the Tournament of Power, they created Kefla, a fusion warrior with incredible potential. Kefla's base power was already immense, combining the strength of both fighters into something greater than their sum. When she transformed into Super Saiyan, her power multiplied to levels that forced Goku to use Super Saiyan God just to keep up. Kefla as a Super Saiyan demonstrated how fusion multiplied transformation effects. She was not just Caulifla plus Kale in Super Saiyan form, she was a new being whose potential exceeded either component fighter. Her energy output was so massive that it destabilized parts of the tournament arena, her attacks powerful enough to crack the supposedly indestructible fighting stage. Goku was forced to escalate to Super Saiyan Blue against Kefla's Super Saiyan form, and even then he struggled. The Fusion Warrior's power climbed rapidly during combat, her Saiyan biology adapting and growing stronger with each exchange. She pushed Goku harder than almost any opponent he had faced, forcing him to access Ultra Instinct to finally defeat her. The Universe 6 Saiyans added several new names to the list of Super Saiyans across the multiverse. Kaba brought the transformation to his universe, Caulifla mastered it almost instantly, and their fusion Kefla wielded it with devastating effect. Kale, though her transformation was different, still represented the same legendary power in a new form. Together, they proved that Saiyan potential existed across multiple universes. Meanwhile, in Universe 7, another Saiyan was about to demonstrate what happened when legendary power combined with limitless potential. Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan, existed in two versions across different continuities. The first version appeared in movies that were separate from the main canon, while the second version was introduced in Dragon Ball Super as an official part of the story. The Dragon Ball Super version of Broly grew up on a hostile planet, raised by his father Paragus, who had been exiled there by King Vegeta. Broly's potential was recognized even as an infant. his power level so high that King Vegeta feared he would one day surpass Prince Vegeta. This fear led to Broly's exile, which in turn led to his harsh upbringing far from civilization. Broly's entire childhood consisted of survival training on a planet filled with dangerous creatures. His father used a shock collar to control him, punishing him whenever his power got out of control. This abusive upbringing created a warrior with immense strength, but no understanding of how to properly use it. Broly never learned to suppress his power or transform consciously, instead accessing it through pure instinct. When Broly finally encountered Goku and Vegeta decades later, his base form alone could match their base forms despite them having achieved godhood. This demonstrated genetic potential beyond anything seen before in a Saiyan. Broly had never trained formally, never learned energy control, yet his raw power rivaled warriors who had trained under angels and gods. The fight that ensued pushed Broly through multiple power-ups in rapid succession. He began in base form, gradually adapting to Vegeta's attacks and growing stronger. Then he accessed his wrathful state, a transformation that channeled the great ape's power without physically transforming. This state gave him golden eyes and an aura of green energy, multiplying his power significantly. Even in wrathful form, Broly was struggling against Super Saiyan God Goku. The divine transformation gave Goku an advantage that raw power could not easily overcome. But Broly's adaptation was relentless, his power climbing every second as his Saiyan biology responded to the challenge. He was evolving in real time, breaking through limits that most Saiyans would spend years trying to surpass. Frieza, watching the battle and recognizing an opportunity, decided to give Broly the push needed for full transformation. He remembered how killing Krillin had triggered Goku's Super Saiyan transformation on Namek decades earlier. Frieza fired a death beam at Paragus, killing Broly's father instantly while lying that it was accidental collateral damage from the battle. Broly's grief and rage at his father's death, combined with his already astronomical power level, triggered his transformation into Super Saiyan. But this was not a normal transformation. Broly's unique biology and lack of control created something more primal. His golden hair took on a greenish tint, his muscles expanded dramatically, and his power multiplied beyond calculation. As a Super Saiyan, Broly completely overwhelmed both Goku and Vegeta, even when they were using Super Saiyan Blue. His attacks were wild and unrefined, but carried such devastating force that blocking them was nearly impossible. He moved with incredible speed despite his massive size, his instincts guiding him to counter techniques he had never seen before. Broly was learning and adapting even faster than before. The only way to defeat Super Saiyan Broly was for Goku and Vegeta to fuse into Gogeta. Even then, the battle was intense, with Broly's power climbing throughout the fight. Gogeta in his Super Saiyan Blue form eventually overpowered Broly, but not before the legendary Super Saiyan demonstrated why his title was deserved. His potential truly seemed limitless, his growth rate unprecedented. Broly's transformation was significant because it showed that Super Saiyan could manifest differently depending on the individual Saiyan's characteristics. While most Super Saiyans showed controlled power increases, Broly's transformation was explosive and overwhelming. His lack of formal training meant he accessed the form through pure instinct rather than technique, creating a more primal and dangerous version. The genetic component of Super Saiyan transformation became even more apparent when examining the later generations of Saiyans. Goku Jr. and Vegeta Jr., descendants of Goku and Vegeta living a century after the main story, both possessed the ability to transform despite being heavily diluted in Saiyan blood. They were barely Saiyan by genetic percentage, yet the transformation was still accessible to them. Goku Jr. lived in a peaceful era where martial arts were largely forgotten and power levels had declined significantly. He was a timid child, nothing like his legendary ancestor, and knew nothing about fighting or transformations. His great-great-grandmother Pan told him stories about Goku, but these seemed like fairy tales rather than history. When Pan fell ill, Goku Jr. remembered her stories about the Dragon Balls and decided to search for them to wish her back to health. His journey took him to Mount Paozu, where the original Goku had lived as a child. Along the way, Goku Jr. faced challenges that forced him to access courage he did not know he possessed. During a confrontation with a demon that threatened his new friend, a bear he had befriended during his journey, Goku Jr. felt rage for the first time in his gentle life. This rage triggered his latent Saiyan potential, causing him to transform into Super Saiyan despite having no training or understanding of what was happening. His power in this form allowed him to defeat the demon and save his friend. After the transformation ended, Goku Jr. did not remember how he had done it. The power felt like a dream, something that could not have been real. But at the end of Dragon Ball GT, during a tournament scene set even further in the future, Goku Jr. demonstrated the ability to transform at will, suggesting he had eventually learned to control the power. Vegeta Jr., his rival and descendant of the Saiyan Prince, also possessed Super Saiyan abilities. The two young Saiyans fought in a tournament that mirrored the eternal rivalry between their ancestors. Both transformed during their match, continuing a tradition that had lasted over a century. The sight of these two children, barely Saiyan by blood, accessing legendary transformations, showed how thoroughly the power had been integrated into the genetic line. The existence of these future Saiyans suggested that Super Saiyan potential, once unlocked in a bloodline, would continue to pass down through generations, even as Saiyan genetics became increasingly diluted. The transformation was no longer dependent on being full-blooded or even significantly Saiyan. As long as some Saiyan DNA existed, the potential remained dormant, waiting to be awakened. This genetic inheritance explained why Goten and Trunks transformed so easily compared to their fathers. Goku and Vegeta had unlocked Super Saiyan in their own bodies, causing permanent genetic changes that were then passed to their children. Goten and Trunks inherited bodies that were already predisposed toward transformation, making the process natural rather than difficult. The concept of S-cells supported this understanding. When a Saiyan transformed, their S-cell count increased dramatically and permanently. These elevated S-cells could be passed to offspring, giving the next generation a head start toward transformation. This created an exponential effect where each generation of Saiyans found transformation easier than the previous one. Environmental factors also influenced S-cell production, according to Toriyama's explanation. Saiyans who lived peacefully or experienced strong positive emotions produced more S-cells over time. This explained why Goku, raised on Earth in a peaceful environment, could eventually access transformations more easily than Vegeta, who was raised in Frieza's brutal military culture. The requirement for high S-cell counts also explained why ancient Saiyans rarely transformed. The original Saiyan civilization was built on conquest and violence, creating an environment that suppressed S-cell production. Only rare individuals who experienced different circumstances could generate enough S-cells to transform, making Super Saiyan genuinely legendary. After Planet Vegeta's destruction, the surviving Saiyans lived very different lives that naturally increased their S-cell counts. Goku's peaceful life on Earth, Vegeta's grudging acceptance of friendship and family, Gohan's scholarly pursuits, all of these created conditions favorable for S-cell growth. The transformation became more accessible precisely because the Saiyans were no longer living as conquerors. This biological explanation for transformation accessibility did not diminish the emotional significance of each Saiyan's first transformation. Each warrior still needed to overcome personal barriers and reach beyond their current limits. The journey remained meaningful even if the destination was more accessible than it had been for previous generations. Goku's transformation required him to embrace his Saiyan heritage while maintaining his Earth-learned values. Vegeta's transformation demanded he shatter his pride and accept his limitations. Gohan's transformation needed him to overcome his gentle nature and accept that fighting was sometimes necessary. Trunks transformed through grief and loss. Each transformation told a story about who the Saiyan was and what they needed to overcome. The variety of triggers demonstrated that Super Saiyan was not truly about anger, despite what early explanations suggested. Anger could trigger the transformation, but so could desperation, frustration, determination, or even just understanding the technique once sufficient power was achieved. The transformation responded to intense emotion generally, not just rage specifically. Some transformations came from positive emotions rather than negative ones. Goten and Trunks seemed to transform through excitement and joy of training rather than trauma. Kaba transformed from protective instinct after Vegeta threatened his home. These variations showed that Super Saiyan was more flexible than the legend suggested, adapting to the individual Saiyan's personality and circumstances. The physical changes that accompanied Super Saiyan were consistent across most users. Golden hair, teal-green eyes, and a golden aura appeared in nearly every transformation. Muscle mass often increased slightly, though some users like Goku and Gohan kept relatively lean builds even when transformed. The consistency suggested these changes were fundamental to the transformation itself rather than variable by user. However, some variations did exist. Broly's greenish hair tint and overwhelming muscle growth set him apart from standard Super Saiyans. Kale's berserker form created entirely different physical changes, including pure white eyes and massive size increase. These mutations suggested that Super Saiyan could manifest differently in Saiyans with unusual genetics or psychological states. The power multiplier of Super Saiyan was officially stated to be 50 times base power. This enormous increase explained why the transformation was so devastating when it first appeared. Frieza in his final form had seemed invincible, but a 50 times multiplier put Goku far beyond anything Frieza could handle. The same multiplier applied to every Super Saiyan, making it a reliable benchmark for power scaling. Energy consumption was a factor that early Super Saiyans had to manage. The form initially drained stamina relatively quickly, making it unsuitable for extended battles. Goku noticed this limitation during his 3 years of preparation for the androids and developed a solution. He learned to maintain Super Saiyan as his natural state, keeping the transformation active constantly until his body adapted. This mastery of Super Saiyan, sometimes called the full power Super Saiyan state, eliminated the stamina drain issue. By treating the transformation as his default state rather than a temporary power-up, Goku's body adjusted to the energy requirements. He could maintain Super Saiyan indefinitely without fatigue, and the transformation no longer felt different from his base state. Gohan trained alongside his father in the hyperbolic time chamber, learning this same mastery. The two Saiyans spent an entire year in the time chamber, maintaining constant Super Saiyan transformation. By the end of their training, both could sleep, eat, and relax while transformed. The golden hair and green eyes became as natural as breathing. This mastered state provided benefits beyond just eliminating stamina drain. It also removed the emotional instability that sometimes accompanied fresh transformations. Goku and Gohan remained completely calm and rational while transformed, suffering none of the aggression or rage that could affect newer Super Saiyans. The form became a tool they controlled rather than a state that controlled them. Vegeta and Trunks attempted a different approach during their own training in the hyperbolic time chamber. Rather than mastering the base Super Saiyan form, they pushed beyond it to more powerful variations. Vegeta achieved Super Saiyan 2nd grade, which increased muscle mass and power significantly. Trunks went even further to 3rd grade, maximizing power at the cost of speed. These ascended forms proved to be dead ends when used against Cell. While they provided more raw power than standard Super Saiyan, they came with severe drawbacks. The increased muscle mass slowed movements, and the forms consumed energy rapidly. Cell easily avoided Trunks' attacks despite being weaker, simply by moving faster than the bulky transformation allowed Trunks to react. The failure of these ascended forms reinforced that Goku's approach of mastering the base transformation was correct. Rather than seeking new transformations, perfecting control over existing ones proved more effective. This lesson influenced how Saiyans approached training in subsequent years, though the appearance of Super Saiyan 2 and beyond eventually pushed them past this philosophy. The spread of Super Saiyan across multiple universes and generations transformed it from legend to common knowledge. What Vegeta once dismissed as myth had become a standard ability that even children could access. The transformation that once appeared every 1,000 years now manifested in warriors barely old enough to attend school. The legendary had become ordinary. Yet this accessibility did not diminish the transformation's importance in Saiyan culture and history. Super Saiyan remained a milestone, a proof that a Saiyan had reached a certain threshold of power and mastery. It represented the moment when a warrior transcended normal limits and stepped into extraordinary territory. Even if many could reach it, the achievement still mattered. The transformation also served as foundation for even greater heights. Super Saiyan 2 multiplied the base form's power by 2. Super Saiyan 3 multiplied it even further. Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan Blue reached into divine territory. All of these advanced forms built upon the original Super Saiyan transformation, using it as a stepping stone toward increasingly impossible power. In this way, the first Super Saiyan transformation remained relevant even as stronger forms appeared. It was the beginning of the journey, not the destination. Every Saiyan who achieved greater heights had to start by unlocking that initial golden-haired form. The path to godhood began with a transformation that was once thought impossible. The legend of Super Saiyan had come full circle over the course of the Dragon Ball story. It began as ancient myth, dismissed by modern Saiyans as pure fiction. Goku's transformation on Namek proved the myth was real, shocking the universe and changing everything. Subsequent transformations by other Saiyans demonstrated that the power was accessible to more than just chosen ones. Each new Super Saiyan added their own chapter to the legend, their own story of overcoming limits and reaching beyond what seemed possible. Vegeta's pride-shattering determination, Gohan's protective rage, Trunks' grief-fueled transformation, Goten and Trunks' natural talent, the Universe 6 Saiyans' rapid mastery, Broly's overwhelming potential, all of these became part of the ever-growing story. The transformation's meaning evolved along with its prevalence. For Goku, it represented acceptance of his heritage and his role as a warrior. For Vegeta, it validated his pride and proved his royal blood meant something. For Gohan, it showed that even gentle souls could access great power when protecting others. For the younger generation, it was simply another step in their development as fighters. Future generations of Saiyans would inherit both the ability and the responsibility that came with it. Goku Jr. and Vegeta Jr. carried on the legacy of their ancestors, continuing a tradition that stretched back over a millennium to the original Super Saiyan. As long as Saiyans existed, the golden-haired transformation would remain part of their identity. The biological mechanisms behind Super Saiyan, the S-cells and genetic factors, provided scientific framework for what had once been pure legend. Understanding how the transformation worked did not make it less impressive. It simply revealed that Saiyan biology possessed incredible capabilities that evolution and circumstance had locked away until the right conditions emerged. The emotional triggers that unlocked transformation varied widely but shared common threads. Loss, protection, desperation, determination, all of these represented moments when a Saiyan needed more power than they currently possessed. The transformation responded to genuine need, to moments when the warrior's current limitations became unacceptable. This need-based activation explained why peaceful eras produced more Super Saiyans than violent ones. Saiyans raised in constant battle never developed emotional depth or strong attachments that could trigger transformation. They knew only conquest and survival. Saiyans raised in peace formed bonds, experienced loss more deeply, and had something worth protecting beyond themselves. The transformation spread across multiple universes suggested it was a fundamental aspect of Saiyan biology rather than a unique mutation. Universe 6 Saiyans could access it just as Universe 7 Saiyans could, despite evolving separately for millennia. This implied that whatever genetic potential enabled Super Saiyan existed in the original Saiyan species before any universal divergence. Gods and angels acknowledged Super Saiyan as significant even by divine standards. When Beerus first heard that Saiyans could transform, he took interest, despite being a god of destruction with power far beyond any mortal. The transformation impressed him enough to seek out the Super Saiyan god, showing that even divine beings recognized something special in Saiyan potential. The Tournament of Power, which gathered fighters from 8 universes, featured multiple Super Saiyans but also showed that the transformation was not universal. Universe 11 had Jiren, Universe 2 had Ribrianne, Universe 3 had the Warriors of Science. Each universe developed power differently, and Super Saiyan remained unique to Saiyan specifically. This uniqueness gave Saiyan strategic value in multiversal conflicts. Universe 7 relied heavily on Goku and Vegeta's abilities during the Tournament of Power, their transformations providing the power needed to face threats from across the cosmos. Universe 6 similarly depended on Kaba, Caulifla, and Kale to represent their universe's strength. The fusion warriors Vegito, Gogeta, and Gotenks demonstrated that Super Saiyan could combine with fusion techniques to reach even greater heights. These temporary beings inherited the transformation ability from their component Saiyans and could push it further than either fighter could alone. Their golden-haired forms represented the peak of what Super Saiyan could achieve through combination. Time travel added another layer to Super Saiyan's history through future Trunks and his timeline. In his world, he was the only Super Saiyan for years, the sole defender of Earth against the androids. His mastery of the form came from desperate necessity rather than competitive training. Every transformation could be his last. Every battle could end with his death. The contrast between timelines showed how circumstances shaped Super Saiyan development. Main timeline, Trunks learned the transformation easily, with his father's guidance and training with Goten. Future Trunks earned it through tragedy and used it in life or death struggles. Both achieved the same form but through vastly different paths, showing that transformation was adaptable to any situation. The animation and depiction of Super Saiyan transformations became increasingly elaborate over the decades. Goku's first transformation was relatively simple, hair color change and aura shift. Later transformations like Vegeta's in Dragon Ball Super Broly received full animation sequences with detailed muscle movement, energy effects, and environmental reactions. The visual spectacle grew along with the transformation's importance to the story. Voice acting also evolved to match the transformation's significance. The screams and vocal performances during transformation sequences became iconic parts of Dragon Ball culture. Voice actors put immense effort into conveying the pain, rage, determination, or joy that accompanied each character's first Super Saiyan moment. Music played a crucial role in making transformations memorable. The background scores during Goku's first transformation on Namek, during Gohan's ascension to Super Saiyan 2, during Vegeta's various transformation moments, all of these soundtracks enhanced the emotional impact. The music swelled at the right moments, creating atmosphere that made each transformation feel earned and significant. Cultural impact of Super Saiyan extended far beyond Dragon Ball itself. The golden-haired appearance became instantly recognizable worldwide, referenced in countless other anime, video games, and media. Characters achieving dramatic power-ups through glowing transformations became a common trope, but Super Saiyan remained the original and most iconic example. Merchandise featuring Super Saiyan forms generated enormous revenue over decades. Figurines, clothing, video games, and countless other products depicted characters in their transformed states. The commercial success demonstrated how deeply the transformation resonated with fans across generations and cultures. Video games allowed players to experience transformations firsthand, controlling Super Saiyans in combat scenarios. Games like Dragon Ball Z Budokai, Dragon Ball FighterZ, and Dragon Ball Xenoverse made transformation a key gameplay mechanic. Players could trigger Super Saiyan modes, experiencing the power increase and visual changes themselves. Fan theories and discussions about Super Saiyan mechanics filled internet forums for decades. Debates about power levels, transformation requirements, biological explanations, and comparative strength between different Super Saiyans created entire communities dedicated to analysis. The transformation provided endless material for speculation and interpretation. The scientific approach to explaining Super Saiyan through S cells and biological mechanisms pleased some fans while disappointing others who preferred the mystical interpretation. This divide showed how the transformation meant different things to different people, some viewing it as space magic, while others wanted concrete explanations. Training methods to achieve Super Saiyan became topics of intense discussion. Fans analyzed what made Goku's training effective, why Vegeta's approach differed, how Goten and Trunks managed it so easily. Understanding the path to transformation helped fans appreciate the journey each character took. The psychological aspects of transformation also generated interest. The emotional triggers, the personality changes that sometimes occurred, the way transformation affected behavior and decision-making. These elements added depth beyond simple power increases, making each transformation a character development moment. Comparisons between Super Saiyan and other transformation systems in anime became inevitable. Naruto's Sage Mode, Ichigo's Hollow Powers, Luffy's Gear transformations all drew comparisons to Super Saiyan. Most acknowledged Dragon Ball's influence on establishing the transformation power-up as a standard anime trope. The environmental destruction that accompanied transformations showcased their overwhelming power. Goku's first transformation shook Namek's surface. Gohan's Super Saiyan 2 awakening sent energy waves across the battlefield. Broly's transformation in the Super movie created visible shockwaves across the Arctic landscape. These effects made transformations feel genuinely world-shaking. Transformation sequences became opportunities for dramatic monologues and character declarations. Goku's speech about being a Saiyan from Earth, Vegeta's various pride-fueled declarations, Gohan's rare displays of anger, all of these speeches occurred during or immediately after transformations. The power-up provided a natural moment for characters to express their philosophies and motivations. The mentor-student relationship dynamics often involved teaching transformation. Goku taught Gohan, Vegeta taught Kaba, Caulifla taught Kale. These teaching moments created bonding experiences and character development opportunities. Passing knowledge about Super Saiyan between generations and universes became a way to show growth and connection. Failed transformation attempts also served narrative purposes. Characters struggling to transform showed their current limitations and created tension before eventual success. Gohan's difficulty accessing his hidden power, Kale's inability to match Caulifla initially, these struggles made final success more satisfying. The medical and physical toll of transformation varied by user and circumstance. Early users sometimes appeared exhausted after long battles in Super Saiyan form. Mastered users showed no negative effects at all. This variation suggested that control and experience reduced the physical cost significantly. Energy sensing abilities allowed characters to detect Super Saiyan transformations from enormous distances. The dramatic increase in power made these transformations noticeable across planets or even solar systems. This sensing ability created moments where characters reacted to transformations happening far away. The hierarchy of transformations established Super Saiyan as the baseline for comparing other forms. When new transformations appeared, they were measured against Super Saiyan's 50 times multiplier. This created a clear progression system that fans could follow and understand. Strategic uses of transformation evolved as characters became more experienced. Early users transformed immediately when serious. Later users learned to conserve energy by fighting in base form until transformation became necessary. This tactical consideration added depth to battle sequences. The permanence of the transformation ability once achieved meant no Saiyan ever truly lost it. Characters who stopped training might grow weaker in base form, but they retained the ability to transform. This created a safety net, a minimum power level that could always be accessed when needed. Transformation mastery became its own form of training separate from simply increasing power. Learning to transform instantly without power-up sequences, maintaining the form without thinking about it, transforming directly into higher levels, all of these represented skill development beyond raw strength. The psychological confidence boost from achieving Super Saiyan affected how characters approached challenges. Knowing they possessed legendary power changed their entire mindset. Goku became more confident in his abilities, Vegeta's pride was partially restored, Gohan gained self-assurance he had previously lacked. Inter-universal politics were influenced by Super Saiyan abilities. Universe 7's twin universe, Universe 6, recognized the strategic value of developing Super Saiyans among their own forces. The transformation became a form of soft power, a deterrent against threats from other universes. The Tournament of Destroyers and Tournament of Power both featured Super Saiyans prominently, showing that even in multiversal competition, the transformation remained relevant and powerful. It was not the strongest ability available, but it was reliable and accessible to multiple fighters. Teaching methods for Super Saiyan evolved from harsh emotional triggers to more technical understanding. Early generations needed trauma or extreme emotion. Later generations learned through explanation and technique. This evolution made the transformation more humane to achieve even as it became more common. The relationship between base power and transformation multiplier meant that increasing base strength was often more effective than simply relying on Super Saiyan. A Saiyan with higher base power became proportionally stronger when transformed. This encouraged continuous training even after achieving transformation. Stamina management in Super Saiyan form separated skilled users from novices. Masters could maintain transformation for hours without fatigue. Beginners might exhaust themselves in minutes. This stamina consideration added strategic depth to when and how to transform during extended conflicts. The visual evolution of Super Saiyan across different Dragon Ball series showed changing animation technology and artistic styles. The sharper, more angular designs of Dragon Ball Z gave way to softer lines in Dragon Ball Super. These aesthetic changes reflected broader shifts in anime production. Color palette choices for Super Saiyan remained remarkably consistent despite different animation teams and decades of production. The golden yellow hair and teal green eyes stayed constant, creating immediate visual recognition regardless of when or where the transformation appeared. The sound design for transformations contributed significantly to their impact. The crackling energy sounds, the bass rumble of power building, the high-pitched whine of energy release, all of these audio elements became as iconic as the visual changes. Lighting effects during transformation sequences created dramatic atmosphere that enhanced emotional impact. Golden light illuminating previously dark scenes, shadows cast by intense auras, the way characters' faces were lit from below by their own energy, these details made transformations visually striking. The influence of Super Saiyan on fighting game design cannot be overstated. The transformation mechanic, where characters power up to access stronger moves and increased stats, became a staple of anime fighting games. Dragon Ball pioneered this mechanic that countless games would later adopt. Character personality shifts during transformation varied widely. Some Saiyans became more aggressive and battle-focused when transformed, others remained essentially unchanged. These variations reflected individual psychology and control over the transformation. The relationship between anger and transformation strength was explored multiple times. Characters who transformed through rage often displayed more raw power initially, but less control. Those who transformed through other emotions showed better technique but sometimes less overwhelming force. Duration limits on early transformations created tension in battle scenarios. Characters had to defeat enemies before their transformation time ran out, adding urgency to fights. Later mastery eliminated these time limits, changing battle dynamics significantly. The social impact of being a Super Saiyan affected different characters differently. Goku largely ignored his legendary status. Vegeta took pride in it. Gohan found it burdensome. These reactions showed how the same achievement could mean vastly different things depending on personality and values. Transformation as a coming-of-age moment worked particularly well for younger characters. Gohan's first transformation marked his growth from child to warrior. Trunks' achievement showed his transition to adulthood. Goten and Trunks transforming as children subverted this pattern entirely. The rarity of female Super Saiyans in Universe 7 created interesting narrative opportunities. when Universe 6 introduced cauliflower and kale. Their transformations challenged assumptions about gender and Saiyan potential, showing that the legendary power was truly universal among Saiyans regardless of gender. Historical records of Super Saiyan transformation were largely destroyed with Planet Vegeta, leaving only oral legends. This loss of documented history made rediscovering the transformation a process of trial and error rather than following established methods. The spiritual or mystical elements of transformation were sometimes emphasized over purely physical explanations. References to warrior spirits, legendary destinies, and cosmic significance suggested Super Saiyan involved more than just biology. Photographic and video evidence of Super Saiyan transformations existed in universe, with news coverage and recordings capturing these incredible events. The world's reaction to learning Saiyans existed and could transform provided interesting social commentary. The economic impact of Super Saiyan battles was sometimes addressed, with cities destroyed and rebuilt repeatedly. The casual devastation caused by transformed Saiyans fighting created massive collateral damage that society somehow absorbed. Religious or philosophical interpretations of Super Saiyan appeared occasionally among characters who witnessed transformations. Some viewed it as divine intervention, others as proof of evolution's potential, still others as simple biological variation. The transformation's relationship to traditional Saiyan culture was complex since most Saiyans died before any modern transformations occurred. The few survivors could not confirm whether ancient Saiyans had any special knowledge about achieving the legendary form. Symbolism of golden hair connected to various cultural meanings across different audiences. In some interpretations, it represented enlightenment, in others, divine favor, in still others simply maximum power expression. The transformation's impact on Saiyan diaspora identity cannot be ignored. The scattered survivors of planet Vegeta's destruction found common ground in their shared potential for transformation, creating bonds across vast distances. Educational efforts to understand Super Saiyan mechanics led to various in-universe studies and out-of-universe analysis. Scientists like Bulma occasionally examined the phenomenon, providing technical perspectives on what was happening biologically. The theatrical and dramatic presentation of transformations served clear narrative purposes beyond simple power increases. These moments represented turning points in battles and character arcs, making them crucial story beats. Audience reactions to first-time transformations remained consistently intense across different series and generations. The formula worked because it tapped into fundamental storytelling about overcoming limitations and achieving the impossible. The legacy of each Super Saiyan's first transformation contributed to their character identity permanently. Goku would always be the first modern Super Saiyan. Gohan would always be the one who skipped straight to Super Saiyan 2. Goten and Trunks would always be the prodigies who transformed as children. As the story of Dragon Ball continued beyond its original ending, new Saiyans and new transformations continued to appear. But the original Super Saiyan form remained foundational, the first real step beyond normal limits, the gateway to all greater heights that followed. The transformation mechanics themselves revealed deeper truths about Saiyan biology that scientists across universes tried to understand. When the Saiyan transformed, their body underwent cellular restructuring at a fundamental level. Mitochondria within each cell began producing energy at rates that defied normal biological limits. This surge of cellular energy manifested externally as the golden aura that surrounded transformed Saiyans. The hair color change was not simply cosmetic, but reflected actual molecular alterations to hair follicles. Melanin production shifted dramatically during transformation, replacing natural pigment with the golden yellow that characterized Super Saiyan. This change reversed instantly when transformation ended, showing remarkable cellular flexibility that human biology could never match. Eye color transformation involved similar mechanisms affecting iris pigmentation. The teal green that replaced natural eye colors came from energy saturation in the iris itself. This created an almost luminous quality to Super Saiyan eyes, making them appear to glow even in darkness. Muscle density increased during transformation, Without significantly expanding muscle volume for most users, the enhancement was cellular rather than structural, with existing muscle fibers becoming exponentially stronger without requiring more mass. This explained why some Super Saiyans maintained lean builds despite massive power increases. Cardiovascular changes accompanied transformation as well. Heart rate increased dramatically to pump oxygen-rich blood through the enhanced muscular system. Blood pressure spiked to levels that would kill normal humans instantly, but Saiyan cardiovascular systems adapted seamlessly. Nervous system response time accelerated by orders of magnitude during transformation. Neurons fired faster, synapses transmitted signals more efficiently, and reaction speeds became superhuman, even by Saiyan standards. This explained how Super Saiyans could track movements invisible to normal vision. The energy requirements of maintaining transformation decreased as Saiyans gained experience and control. Initial transformations consumed energy rapidly, but mastered users could maintain the form indefinitely with minimal drain. This efficiency came from the body learning to regulate energy production and consumption automatically. Temperature regulation became more complex during transformation. The massive energy production generated enormous heat that would normally cause dangerous overheating. However, Super Saiyan biology included enhanced heat dispersion mechanisms that prevented damage. The golden aura actually radiated excess heat into the surrounding environment. Bone density and structure reinforced themselves during transformation to handle the increased strength without fracturing. Skeletal systems that could lift tons in base form needed to withstand hundreds of tons when transformed. Calcium deposits restructured on a molecular level to provide necessary support. The electromagnetic effects of Super Saiyan transformation were measurable across vast distances. The energy output created detectable signatures that skilled warriors could sense light years away. This made transformations essentially impossible to hide from anyone with sufficient energy sensing ability. Gravitational anomalies sometimes occurred during particularly powerful transformations. Goku's first transformation caused rocks to float upward, defying normal gravity. This suggested that Super Saiyan energy could temporarily affect local space-time geometry through unknown mechanisms. The psychological component of transformation extended beyond simple emotional triggers. Studies suggested that Super Saiyan affected neurotransmitter production in the brain, altering mood and mental state. This explained personality shifts some users experienced when transformed. Adrenaline production during transformation reached levels far beyond normal biological limits. This hormonal surge contributed to the heightened aggression and battle focus that characterized early Super Saiyan states. Mastered users learned to regulate this hormonal response consciously. Pain tolerance increased dramatically when transformed. Super Saiyans could continue fighting through injuries that would incapacitate them in base form. This was partly physiological, with enhanced healing factors, and partly psychological, with altered pain perception. The healing factor itself deserved examination. While not as pronounced as some other abilities, Super Saiyans did demonstrate enhanced recovery when transformed. Minor injuries closed faster, bruises faded more quickly, and stamina recovered more efficiently. Sensory enhancement accompanied transformation across all 5 traditional senses. Vision sharpened to see details impossible for base form. Hearing expanded to detect frequencies normally inaudible. Touch became sensitive enough to feel air pressure changes. Even taste and smell intensified, though these were rarely combat relevant. The 6th sense of energy perception reached new heights during transformation. Super Saiyans could detect power levels with incredible precision, sense emotional states through energy signatures, and perceive dimensional boundaries that separated different planes of existence. Energy manipulation became vastly easier when transformed. Techniques that required concentration in base form could be executed instantly as a Super Saiyan. Energy blasts grew more powerful, energy control became more precise, and new techniques became accessible. The compatibility between Super Saiyan and other power-up techniques varied. Kaioken proved dangerous to combine with Super Saiyan initially. as the two multipliers created such strain that it could destroy the user's body. Goku eventually mastered combining them, but only at divine transformation levels. Fusion compatibility with Super Saiyan was nearly perfect. The fusion dance and Potara earrings both worked seamlessly with transformed Saiyans, creating fusion beings who could access Super Saiyan immediately. The resulting power multiplication was exponential rather than simply additive. Time manipulation abilities showed interesting interactions with Super Saiyan transformations. Instances of time stop or time skip affected Super Saiyans differently than normal beings. The heightened energy state seemed to provide some resistance to temporal manipulation. Dimensional barriers became more permeable around Super Saiyans during transformation. The energy output was so intense it could strain the fabric of reality itself, creating brief openings between dimensions. This effect was usually unintentional and short-lived. The transformation's effect on lifespan was debated among scholars. Some theorized that the cellular strain of transformation would shorten Saiyan lifespans, while others argued the enhanced cellular efficiency might extend them. Evidence remained inconclusive. Aging rates seemed unaffected by transformation ability. Saiyans who could transform aged at the same rate as those who could not. The transformation affected immediate power but not long-term biological clocks. Reproductive implications of Super Saiyan transformations were evident in hybrid offspring. Children of Super Saiyans inherited predisposition toward transformation, showing that the ability modified genetic material in heritable ways. This created an evolutionary pressure toward increasing Super Saiyan prevalence. The social hierarchy among Saiyans shifted after Super Saiyan became common. Traditional power structures based on birth class became obsolete when low-class warriors could match or exceed royal blood through transformation. This democratization of power challenged ancient cultural assumptions. Combat applications of Super Saiyan extended beyond simple strength increases. The transformation enabled techniques impossible in base form, created new strategic options, and changed the entire approach to battle. Fighters developed transformation-specific styles that leveraged the unique properties of Super Saiyan energy. Energy efficiency in combat improved when transformed. Super Saiyans wasted less energy on ineffective movements, optimized their techniques automatically, and fought with unconscious mastery that base form required conscious effort to achieve. The adaptation rate during transformation was remarkable. Super Saiyans learned and improved during battles faster than they could in base form. This accelerated growth explained how Broly could jump power levels so dramatically during a single fight. Zenkai boosts the Saiyan ability to grow stronger after near-death experiences, interacted strangely with Super Saiyan. Some evidence suggested transformations affected how Zenkai worked, possibly diminishing returns at higher power levels, or changing the mechanism entirely. The relationship between base power and transformation effectiveness was not perfectly linear. A Saiyan with base power of 100 did not necessarily become exactly 50 times stronger when transformed. Individual variation, mastery level, and other factors influenced the actual multiplier achieved. Energy signature uniqueness meant each Super Saiyan's transformed state felt slightly different to those sensing it. Experienced warriors could identify who had transformed simply by feeling their energy, recognizing subtle differences in how the power manifested. The transformation's reversibility was instant and complete under normal circumstances. Saiyans could power down from Super Saiyan to base form in a heartbeat without lingering effects. This on-demand accessibility made it a practical combat tool rather than a desperate last resort. Involuntary transformation during sleep or unconsciousness was extremely rare but documented. The body's natural state was untransformed, so maintaining Super Saiyan while sleeping required conscious effort even for masters. Dreams of battle might cause brief flickers of transformation. The transformation's interaction with battle damage created interesting dynamics. Injuries sustained while transformed often seemed less severe than equivalent injuries in base form, but pain still transferred. This created a strategic consideration about when to transform. Energy absorption techniques worked differently on Super Saiyan energy compared to base form energy. The quality and intensity of transformed energy made it harder to drain or steal, providing natural resistance to certain attack types. The visual intimidation factor of Super Saiyan transformation should not be underestimated. The dramatic appearance change, explosive energy release, and overwhelming power signature psychologically affected opponents before physical combat even began. Training while transformed provided different benefits than training in base form. Gravity training as a Super Saiyan built different muscle groups and energy pathways than base form training. Balanced training programs incorporated both states. The transformation's effect on appetite and metabolism was significant. Super Saiyans burned calories at astronomical rates during transformation, creating voracious hunger afterward. Saiyans needed to consume massive amounts of food to fuel their transformations. Sleep requirements might increase slightly after extended transformation use, as the body needed additional rest to recover from the cellular strain. However, mastered users minimized this effect through efficient energy management. Meditation and mental training proved as important as physical training for Super Saiyan mastery. Learning to maintain calm clarity while transformed, controlling the surge of emotions, and directing the power consciously all required mental discipline. The transformation created a feedback loop with confidence and self-belief. Successfully transforming boosted confidence, which made future transformations easier, which further increased confidence. This created accelerating improvement once the initial barrier was overcome. Cultural transmission of Super Saiyan knowledge became important as more Saiyans achieved transformation. Veterans taught newcomers, creating informal training traditions and schools of thought about optimal transformation methods. The artistic and aesthetic appreciation of Super Saiyan transformations developed among both Saiyans and observers. The visual beauty of the golden aura and hair, the grace of transformed movement, the elegance of Super Saiyan combat forms all gained recognition. Musical compositions inspired by Super Saiyan transformations became part of galactic culture. The dramatic moment of transformation inspired countless artistic works across multiple mediums and species. Philosophical debates arose about whether transformation made Saiyans fundamentally different beings or simply enhanced their existing nature. Some argued Super Saiyans were qualitatively different, others that they remained essentially the same with quantitative power increases. The ethical implications of such vast power inequality created by transformation were rarely addressed directly in story, but existed as subtext. Super Saiyans had responsibility to use their power wisely given how drastically they outclassed normal beings. Economic disruption from Super Saiyan battles was mentioned occasionally, with reconstruction efforts following major fights consuming significant resources. Insurance industries presumably struggled with how to handle Super Saiyan-related damage. The diplomatic implications of Super Saiyan power affected interplanetary relations. Civilizations negotiated more carefully with planets that housed Super Saiyans, recognizing the military deterrent they represented. Military applications of Super Saiyan transformation were largely explored through the Saiyan warrior tradition itself. The transformation made individual Saiyans equivalent to small armies, changing tactical considerations entirely. The transformation's effect on communication was subtle but real. The energy output during transformation could interfere with electronic communication systems, and the intensity of transformed emotions affected telepathic communication clarity. Photographic evidence of transformations existed throughout the universe, with news organizations and historians documenting these incredible events. The visual record helped preserve transformation knowledge for future generations. Scientific instruments designed to measure Super Saiyan power output were developed by various civilizations. Scouters in their various iterations attempted this measurement, though higher power levels eventually exceeded their capacity. The transformation's relationship to magic and mystical forces varied by interpretation. Some traditions viewed Super Saiyan as purely physical, others saw spiritual or magical elements. Both perspectives found supporting evidence. Weather phenomena sometimes accompanied particularly powerful transformations. Lightning storms, wind disturbances, and atmospheric pressure changes occurred during major transformation scenes. Whether these were direct effects or coincidental remained debated. Ecological impact of Super Saiyan battles could be devastating. Energy blasts and physical impacts destroyed terrain, altered landscapes permanently, and affected local ecosystems for years afterward. The psychological burden of possessing Super Saiyan power affected different characters differently. Some, like Goku, accepted it naturally, others, like Gohan, found it weighty. Still others, like Vegeta, made it central to their identity. The addictive quality of Super Saiyan power was subtle but real. The rush of transformation, the feeling of overwhelming strength, could become psychologically compelling. Balanced individuals resisted this addiction, while unstable ones might become dependent. Family dynamics changed when transformation ability varied among relatives. Households with multiple Super Saiyans developed unique dynamics, with power levels affecting but not determining family hierarchies. Educational curricula in societies with Super Saiyans presumably included transformation theory and ethics of power use. Teaching young Saiyans about their potential responsibly became a social priority. The transformation's appearance in popular culture within the Dragon Ball universe created meta levels of meaning. Super Saiyans became legendary even to people who had seen them, inspiring myths and stories that added to the original legend. Archaeological evidence of ancient Super Saiyans remained scarce due to planet Vegeta's destruction. What little survived suggested the transformation had appeared periodically throughout Saiyan history, only to be lost again when users died. The generational knowledge gap created by planet Vegeta's destruction meant modern Saiyans had to rediscover transformation without ancient wisdom or training methods. They built new traditions from scratch. The transformation's universality across different Saiyan bloodlines showed it was a species trait rather than a family-specific ability. Royal blood offered no special advantage. Pure-blooded status mattered less than emotional capacity. Gender differences in transformation mechanics appeared minimal to non-existent. Female Saiyans transformed with the same mechanisms, multipliers, and visual changes as males. Power was truly gender-neutral among Saiyans. Age seemed irrelevant to transformation capability beyond requiring sufficient base power. Children as young as 7 transformed. Elderly Saiyans theoretically could as well, though examples were rare due to Saiyan culture and lifespan patterns. The transformation's interaction with other species through hybrid offspring suggested the genetic trait was dominant and robust. Half Saiyans, quarter Saiyans, and even more diluted bloodlines retained transformation capability. Anthropological studies of Saiyan transformation would fill libraries if comprehensively documented. The cultural, biological, psychological, and social implications provided endless material for academic examination. The transformation marked a turning point in universal power scaling. Pre-Super Saiyan conflicts operated at certain power levels. Post-transformation conflicts occurred on entirely different scales. The transformation reset expectations permanently. Historical periodization might divide Saiyan history into pre-Super Saiyan era, lost age when no transformations occurred, and modern era of rediscovery. Each period had distinct characteristics and cultural contexts. The mythology surrounding Super Saiyan transformation grew richer with each new achievement. Stories built upon stories, creating layers of meaning that transcended simple power increases. The transformation became symbol and reality simultaneously, representing possibility itself made manifest. Cross-cultural interpretations of Super Saiyan varied across the universe. Each civilization that encountered transformed Saiyans created their own explanations and mythologies. Some saw divine intervention, others evolutionary biology, still others technological enhancement, despite the organic nature being obvious. The transformation's reproducibility was perfect once understood. Any Saiyan meeting the power and emotional requirements could transform reliably. This reproducibility distinguished it from random mutations or unique abilities that could not be taught or shared. Documentation efforts by scholars across universes attempted to catalog every known Super Saiyan transformation. These records preserved knowledge about triggers, power levels, visual variations, and individual differences for future study. The standardization of transformation training methods developed gradually as more Saiyans achieved the form. What began as individual discovery became codified teaching techniques that could be passed down systematically. Energy conservation strategies, while transformed, became advanced study topics. Masters learned to maintain power while minimizing waste, extending combat duration, and reducing post-battle fatigue. The transformation's compatibility with technology created interesting applications. Energy-powered equipment could draw from Super Saiyan energy output, though the intensity often overloaded systems not designed for such input. Prosthetic limbs and cybernetic enhancements showed mixed compatibility with Super Saiyan transformation. Organic augmentation worked better than mechanical, as the transformation could enhance biological tissue but not metal or plastic. The transformation's effect on clothing created practical considerations. Most fabric could not withstand the energy surge of transformation, disintegrating or burning away. Specialized materials were developed that could survive the process intact. Uniform designs for Super Saiyan warriors incorporated elastic materials and energy-resistant weaves. The traditional Saiyan armor predated transformation and was not optimized for it, leading to later design improvements. Fashion among Saiyans evolved to account for transformation. Clothing that looked good in both base and transformed states required careful selection. The golden aura could clash with certain colors while complementing others. The psychological preparation for first transformation varied by individual. Some Saiyans approached it with excitement, others with trepidation, still others with grim determination. Each attitude brought different challenges and advantages. Post-transformation integration into daily life took adjustment time for new Super Saiyans. Learning when transformation was appropriate versus excessive, managing the attention it attracted, and balancing power with responsibility all required conscious effort. The social dynamics between Super Saiyans and non-transformed individuals were complex. Power differences could create barriers or bridges depending on personalities and circumstances. Humility helped bridge gaps while arrogance widened them. Mentorship relationships often formed between experienced Super Saiyans and aspiring ones. These bonds created networks of knowledge sharing and mutual support across generations and universes. The transformation's role in conflict resolution was double-edged. Super Saiyan power could end disputes through overwhelming force or escalate them through intimidation. Wise users learned when transformation helped versus hurt diplomatic efforts. Peacetime applications of Super Saiyan transformation were surprisingly numerous. Construction work, disaster response, scientific experimentation, and countless other fields benefited from the enhanced strength and energy manipulation. Athletic competitions featuring Super Saiyans required special categories to maintain fairness. The transformation made competition with non-transformed individuals meaningless, necessitating separate divisions. The artistic expression possible through Super Saiyan energy manipulation created new art forms. Energy sculptures, light shows, and kinetic performances used transformation as a creative medium. Therapeutic applications of controlled Super Saiyan energy were explored for medical purposes. The bioelectric effects could potentially treat certain conditions, though practical applications remained experimental. The transformation's effect on interpersonal relationships was profound. Loved ones had to accept partners or family members who could suddenly become exponentially more powerful. Trust and communication became essential. Romantic relationships between Super Saiyans and non-Saiyans navigated unique challenges. Power imbalances required conscious effort to avoid becoming problematic. Successful relationships required mutual respect beyond physical strength. Parenting approaches changed when children could transform. Teaching responsibility alongside power became crucial. Parents who were Super Saiyans themselves could guide from experience, others had to learn alongside their children. Educational institutions and universes with Super Saiyans presumably developed curricula addressing transformation ethics, control techniques, and responsible power use. These lessons would be as important as traditional academics. The legal frameworks surrounding Super Saiyan power varied by civilization. Some societies regulated transformation strictly, others took laissez-faire approaches. Legal codes evolved to address unique situations created by such extreme power. Insurance industries across the universe struggled with how to price policies covering Super Saiyan-related incidents. Actuarial tables had no precedent for beings who could destroy planets casually. The economic value of a Super Saiyan warrior varied tremendously by context. In some scenarios, they were priceless protectors. In others, their power was irrelevant to economic needs. Media portrayal of Super Saiyans ranged from heroic to terrifying depending on perspective and experience. Civilizations saved by Super Saiyans told different stories than those who only knew them through destructive battles. The celebrity status that came with being a known Super Saiyan affected different warriors differently. Some embraced fame, others avoided it, still others used it strategically for various purposes. Privacy became difficult for famous Super Saiyans whose energy signatures were recognizable across vast distances. Any transformation immediately announced their location to skilled energy sensors. The strategic value of keeping transformation ability secret versus revealing it openly was debated. Surprise could provide tactical advantages, but also prevented deterrent effects. Intelligence gathering about transformation capabilities became priority for military organizations. Knowing which enemies could transform informed strategic planning and resource allocation. Counter-transformation tactics were developed by various groups facing Super Saiyan opponents. These ranged from energy-draining techniques to psychological warfare designed to prevent transformation triggers. The physical tells preceding transformation became recognizable to experienced fighters. Energy spikes, muscle tension, emotional intensity all signaled imminent transformation to observant opponents. Interrupting transformation mid-process was possible but difficult. The brief window between initiating and completing transformation could be exploited by sufficiently fast opponents. The vulnerability during transformation sequence was minimal but real. The power-up process required moments of concentration that could theoretically be disrupted, though few were fast enough to exploit this. Forced transformation through external means was theoretically possible but rarely attempted. Artificial triggers using technology or techniques could potentially force unwilling transformation. Suppression of transformation ability proved nearly impossible once achieved. The power was part of Saiyan biology and could not be removed or blocked permanently without severe consequences. The permanence of transformation knowledge meant once a Saiyan understood how to transform, they could not forget. The understanding became integrated into their very being. Dream sequences featuring transformation were common among Saiyans approaching the achievement. Unconscious minds processed the possibility, sometimes providing insights that conscious thought missed. The symbolism of golden hair in various cultures added layers of meaning to Super Saiyan appearance. Gold represented value, divinity, or perfection in many traditions, creating unconscious associations. Color psychology affected how different species perceived Super Saiyans. The bright gold attracted attention naturally, creating immediate recognition and memorability. The contrast between transformed and base states created visual drama that reinforced narrative impact. The dramatic shift emphasized the magnitude of power change occurring. Artistic depictions of transformation moments became iconic imagery across media. Sculptures, paintings, holographs, and other art forms immortalized these dramatic sequences. The temporal aspect of transformation, occurring in specific moments rather than gradual development, created natural story climaxes, narratives built toward transformation moments as turning points. Repetition of transformation across multiple characters created thematic resonance. Each new transformation echoed previous ones while adding unique elements, building cumulative emotional weight. The universality of transformation struggle, each character overcoming their own barriers, created relatable human drama despite the superhuman context. Audiences connected with the emotional journey regardless of power scales. The satisfaction of witnessing earned transformation, where characters worked toward and achieved their goals, provided cathartic reliefs. Unearned transformations lacked this emotional payoff. The transformation's role as metaphor for personal growth, overcoming limitations, and reaching potential resonated beyond literal power increases. Audiences saw their own struggles reflected. Inspirational impact of Super Saiyan transformations extended to real-world audiences who drew motivation from fictional characters achieving impossible feats. The stories encouraged people to exceed their own perceived limits. The cultural penetration of Super Saiyan imagery into worldwide consciousness demonstrated the transformation's archetypal power. It became shorthand for dramatic power-ups across all media. The longevity of Super Saiyan's relevance across decades showed the concept's fundamental appeal. Unlike many trends that fade, the transformation remained culturally significant through generational changes. The evolution of transformation depiction reflected changing animation technology and artistic preferences while maintaining core identity. Modern versions looked different from originals but remained recognizably the same transformation. The training methodologies developed for achieving Super Saiyan varied dramatically across different teachers and students. Each approach reflected the personality and philosophy of those involved, creating diverse paths toward the same destination. Understanding these different methods reveals how flexible the transformation truly was, adapting to individual circumstances rather than requiring one rigid approach. Goku's self-directed training journey towards Super Saiyan was characterized by incremental progress and constant pushing of boundaries. He did not know transformation was his goal initially, simply seeking to become stronger through whatever means presented themselves. His time training under King Kai introduced gravity manipulation as a training tool, working under 10 times Earth's gravity to build strength beyond normal limits. The Kaioken technique that Goku learned from King Kai served as a precursor to Super Saiyan in some ways. Both involved multiplying base power beyond normal capacity, though Kaioken achieved this through technique rather than biological transformation. The strain of Kaioken taught Goku's body to handle power levels far beyond what it was naturally built for, conditioning him for the even greater multiplication that Super Saiyan would bring. During his journey to Namek, Goku trained in 100 times Earth's gravity for the first time. This represented a quantum leap from the 10 times gravity he had experienced before. The increased intensity pushed his body to adapt in ways that previous training never had. Muscles tore and rebuilt themselves stronger, bones densified to handle the pressure, cardiovascular systems enhanced to pump blood through compressed vessels. The gravity training created a foundation of base power that made transformation possible. Without sufficient base strength, the emotional trigger alone would not be enough to spark Super Saiyan. Goku's base power when he arrived on Namek was already extraordinary by most standards, yet still far from the ceiling he would eventually reach. The battles on Namek themselves served as additional training that pushed Goku closer to transformation threshold. Fighting the Ginyu Force, particularly his exchange with Captain Ginyu and the subsequent body swap, taught him lessons about power that mere training could not. He learned that strength without control was meaningless, that technique and strategy mattered as much as raw power. The Zenkai boost Goku received after recovering from his injuries on Namek elevated his power dramatically. Saiyan biology responded to near-death experiences by growing substantially stronger, a trait that served the warrior race well throughout their history. This boost brought Goku to the cusp of transformation, placing him at the very edge of the power threshold required. When emotional trigger finally came through Krillin's death, Goku's body was prepared biologically for what happened next. The rage provided the spark, but the foundation had been built through years of training, gravity conditioning, battle experience, and genetic adaptation. Transformation was not spontaneous miracle, but culmination of long preparation meeting critical moment. Vegeta's training approach differed fundamentally from Goku's in both method and motivation. Where Goku trained for love of martial arts and self improvement, Vegeta trained from pride and competitive fury. His obsession with surpassing Goku drove him to extremes that bordered on self destruction, pushing his body beyond what was healthy or sustainable. The 3 years Vegeta spent preparing for the android threat were characterized by relentless intensity. He trained in Capsule Corporation's gravity chamber with barely any rest, increasing gravity levels far beyond what Goku had used on his journey to Namek. 450 times Earth's gravity became his training environment, a crushing pressure that would kill most beings instantly. Vegeta's training regimen in this environment went beyond simple strength building. He practiced combat techniques, energy manipulation, and endurance exercises all under crushing gravity. Every movement required monumental effort. Every technique demanded perfect form to execute successfully. The slightest mistake could result in serious injury under such conditions. The physical toll of this training was enormous. Vegeta regularly pushed himself to complete exhaustion, collapsing unconscious in the gravity chamber only to wake and resume training immediately. He refused rest even when his body desperately needed it, viewing any break as weakness that Goku would exploit to maintain his advantage. Psychological pressure accompanied the physical strain. Vegeta's pride was wounded beyond measure by Goku achieving Super Saiyan first. The humiliation of being surpassed by a low-class warrior ate at him constantly, fueling his training with rage that never quite subsided. This constant anger paradoxically made transformation harder initially, as it was too diffuse and unfocused to trigger the change. The breakthrough came only when Vegeta's pride completely shattered. After years of brutal training, after pushing himself further than anyone thought possible, he still could not transform. The realization that effort alone might not be enough, that perhaps he simply was not capable of reaching Super Saiyan, devastated him psychologically. In that moment of absolute despair, when his pride crumbled and he faced the possibility that he might always be second to Goku, the emotional intensity reached the critical threshold. The transformation erupted from his broken pride, from the rage at his own limitations, from the desperate need to prove his worth. Vegeta's Super Saiyan was born from humiliation rather than external loss. Gohan's path to transformation was complicated by his dual nature, as both human and Saiyan. His human side gave him emotional depth and capacity for relationships that pure-blooded Saiyans sometimes lacked. His Saiyan side provided the biological framework and latent power necessary for transformation. Together, these created unique conditions for his development. From early childhood, Gohan demonstrated hidden power that emerged during moments of extreme emotion. His rage boost against Raditz, his power surge against Frieza, his various explosions of strength throughout Namek Saga all showed that tremendous power slept within him. Yet accessing this power consciously proved difficult because Gohan's gentle nature resisted the aggression required. Piccolo's training methods with young Gohan were harsh by human standards but effective at drawing out latent potential. Leaving the 4-year-old alone in wilderness to survive taught him self-reliance and tapped into survival instincts. Combat training against Piccolo himself pushed Gohan to access power through desperation and fear. The year Gohan spent training with Goku in the hyperbolic time chamber was transformative in multiple senses. Father and son bonded during this time, their relationship deepening beyond what had been possible before. Goku taught Gohan not just techniques but philosophy, helping him understand that power itself was neutral and purpose determined whether it was good or evil. Goku specifically trained Gohan to unlock Super Saiyan during their time chamber year. He knew his son possessed the power but needed help accessing it consciously rather than through uncontrolled rage. The training focused on emotional awareness, teaching Gohan to recognize and channel the feelings that could trigger transformation without losing himself to them. The actual moment of Gohan's first Super Saiyan transformation during this training was likely quiet and controlled compared to explosive battlefield transformations. With Goku's guidance, Gohan probably accessed the form gradually, learning to feel the energy pathways and cellular changes as they occurred. This measured approach gave him understanding that warriors who transformed in battle often lacked initially. However, Gohan's true breakthrough came during the Cell Games when he ascended directly to Super Saiyan 2. This jump past the first level showed that his latent power exceeded even what Goku had estimated. The emotional trigger of watching his friends tortured and Android 16 destroyed finally shattered the psychological barriers that had held his power back. Trunks' transformation in the future timeline occurred under circumstances of profound loss and isolation. Growing up in a world destroyed by androids, with Gohan as his only teacher and protector, Trunks developed differently than he would have in peacetime. His childhood was defined by survival, loss, and desperate struggle. Gohan's training methods with future Trunks combined practical combat experience with technique instruction. They trained together when not fighting androids, Gohan teaching everything he knew to ensure his student would survive if anything happened to him. The training was intense, but tempered with genuine care, Gohan viewing Trunks almost as a younger brother. The bond between future Gohan and Trunks went beyond typical teacher-student relationships. They were the last defenders of Earth, the only ones who could fight the android threat. This shared burden created connection deeper than friendship, a partnership born from necessity, but maintained through genuine affection and respect. When Gohan died fighting the androids alone, Trunks was devastated beyond measure. Finding his mentor's body in the rain, already cold and lifeless, shattered something fundamental in the young warrior's psyche. The grief was absolute, the rage at his own powerlessness overwhelming. In that moment, Super Saiyan awakened as Trunks screamed his anguish to uncaring skies. The transformation came too late to save Gohan, a tragedy that haunted Trunks for years afterward. His Super Saiyan power was born from failure to protect what mattered most, creating psychological scars that shaped his approach to using the transformation. Every time he transformed afterward carried echoes of that rainy day and the price of his powerlessness. Future Trunks' training after achieving Super Saiyan was solitary and self-directed. Without Gohan to guide him, he had to learn transformation mastery through trial and error. He fought the androids repeatedly, each battle teaching him more about controlling his new power. These fights were desperate affairs, with his life on the line every time. The development of his fighting style reflected his circumstances. Future Trunks fought efficiently and seriously, wasting no energy on showmanship or playing with opponents. His sword techniques integrated seamlessly with Super Saiyan power, the blade becoming extension of his enhanced strength and speed. Every movement served purpose, every attack aimed to end fights quickly. Present timeline Trunks had completely different training circumstances that led to easier transformation. Growing up in peace with both parents alive, training under Vegeta's strict but not desperate instruction, he developed without the trauma that shaped his future counterpart. His path to Super Saiyan was more about reaching a power threshold than emotional breakthrough. Vegeta's training of young Trunks was demanding but came from different place than his own self-torture had. Vegeta wanted his son to be strong, to carry on Saiyan pride, but he also cared about Trunks in ways he had difficulty expressing. The training was harsh because Vegeta knew no other way, not from cruelty. The gravity chamber training that Trunks endured from young age conditioned his body for transformation early, starting gravity training as a child, gradually increasing intensity over years, built foundation of strength that made Super Saiyan accessible once he was old enough. His body adapted to enhanced gravity as it grew, incorporating the strain into normal development. Trunks' friendship with Goten created training partnership that neither had with anyone else. They pushed each other to improve, competed constantly but without the destructive edge that characterized Goku and Vegeta's rivalry. Their sparring sessions were playful but serious, both boys genuinely trying to get stronger while having fun. The fusion technique they learned added new dimension to their training. As Gotenks, they could experience power levels far beyond what either achieved individually. This gave them taste of greater heights to aspire toward. motivation to keep improving. The fusion also taught them about combining techniques and working together seamlessly. Goten's transformation came so naturally that it barely qualified as achievement in traditional sense. He transformed during casual training with Chi-Chi, accessing Super Saiyan as easily as normal children learn to ride bicycles. This effortless achievement was somewhat anticlimactic compared to the struggles previous generations endured. The ease of Goten's transformation reflected both his hybrid genetics and the changed conditions of his development. Born after Goku had already achieved Super Saiyan, Goten inherited S cells and genetic predisposition toward transformation. His peaceful upbringing with Chi-Chi increased his S cell count naturally. Combined with Saiyan potential, these factors made transformation almost inevitable. Chi-Chi's training methods with Goten focused more on discipline and education than combat, though she taught him basic martial arts that Goku had shown her over the years. She wanted Goten to be scholar like she hoped Gohan would be, but Goten's Saiyan nature drew him toward fighting despite her preferences. His natural talent made even casual training incredibly effective. The relationship between Goten and Gohan was distant initially due to their age gap and Gohan's focus on studies. When they finally spent time together, Gohan was shocked by his little brother's power and transformation ability. This surprise quickly turned to pride as Gohan realized the next generation was surpassing the previous in some ways. Cabba's transformation journey represented the first time the technique was taught deliberately between universes. His encounter with Vegeta during the Tournament of Destroyers was educational in harsh but effective way. Vegeta's teaching method was brutal but suited for warrior culture that Cabba understood. The threat to planet Sadala that Vegeta used to trigger Cabba's transformation was entirely fabricated, but Cabba's emotional response was completely genuine. The thought of his homeworld being destroyed, his people killed, his failure to protect them was enough to spark the rage needed for transformation. Vegeta's insight into what would work as trigger showed his growth in understanding transformation mechanics. Cabba's actual transformation was remarkably clean and controlled for a first attempt. The rage Vegeta triggered was intense but focused, directed at specific target rather than diffuse anger. This focus made the transformation stable immediately, without the wild fluctuations that sometimes characterized first transformations. After powering down, Vegeta's explanation of how to access the form consciously gave Cabba knowledge that earlier Saiyans had to discover themselves. Understanding that the transformation was about focusing energy and remembering the feeling made subsequent transformations much easier. Cabba could practice accessing the form at will rather than needing emotional triggers each time. Cabba's return to Universe 6 with Super Saiyan knowledge changed the power dynamics of his universe significantly. He became teacher to other Saiyans, passing on what Vegeta taught him. This knowledge transfer accelerated Universe 6 Saiyan development dramatically, creating multiple Super Saiyans in short time frame. The responsibility Cabba felt for teaching transformation properly weighed on him. He understood that power without wisdom could be dangerous, that Super Saiyan abilities in wrong hands could cause tremendous harm. His teaching approach emphasized control and responsibility, alongside power development. Caulifla's learning experience differed from Cabba's because she approached transformation as technique to master rather than emotional threshold to cross. Her prodigious talent and confidence made her believe she could achieve anything if she understood the mechanics. This attitude served her well, allowing rapid progression that shocked even Cabba. The tingling sensation in the back that Cabba described became Caulifla's focus for achieving transformation. She concentrated energy between her shoulder blades, trying to recreate the feeling Cabba explained. Her first attempt was partially successful, achieving flickering transformation that destabilized quickly but showed she was on right track. Caulifla's second attempt succeeded fully, her confidence and natural talent overcoming the barriers that stopped others. Her transformation was celebratory rather than rage-filled, expressing joy at achieving new power rather than anger at enemies or threats. This positive emotion transformation was unusual but perfectly valid. The implications of Caulifla's easy transformation were debated extensively among fans and characters alike. Some viewed it as proof that transformation was becoming too accessible, losing the special quality that made it legendary. Others argued it showed evolution was making Saiyans naturally stronger, that each generation should have easier access to ancestral abilities. Caulifla's teaching of Kale demonstrated patience and care that contrasted with her usually brash personality. She genuinely wanted her protege to succeed, believing Kale had tremendous potential hidden beneath timid exterior. Her encouragement was constant and genuine, creating supportive environment for Kale's development. Kale's struggle to achieve standard Super Saiyan despite Caulifla's teaching showed that personality and psychology mattered as much as raw potential. Her self-esteem issues created mental blocks that prevented transformation even when she had sufficient power. The confidence required to believe she deserved such power was missing. The Berserker transformation Kale eventually achieved was substitute for standard Super Saiyan, accessing power through different emotional pathway. Instead of controlled focus, her transformation came from jealousy and suppressed rage finally erupting. The result was overwhelming power without control, ancient Super Saiyan curse manifesting in modern era. Kale's journey toward controlling her Berserker form paralleled earlier Saiyans learning to master standard Super Saiyan. She had to find balance between accessing the power and maintaining her identity. Caulifla's unwavering support proved crucial in this process, giving Kale anchor to hold on to when transformation threatened to consume her. The fusion of Caulifla and Kale into Kefla created being with combined transformation abilities and experience. Kefla inherited both Caulifla's easy transformation and Kale's berserker potential, resulting in warrior with multiple power options. The fusion's personality leaned more toward Caulifla's confidence while incorporating Kale's hidden power. Kefla's immediate comfort with Super Saiyan form upon creation showed how fusion inherited and combined the components' abilities. There was no learning period, no adjustment required. The fusion simply knew how to transform because both Caulifla and Kale did. This instant mastery made fusion warriors particularly dangerous. Broly's transformation represented something different from all previous Super Saiyans due to his unique circumstances and genetics. Raised in isolation on hostile planet, trained by abusive father, controlled by shock collar, Broly developed without normal social or psychological development. His power was immense but completely uncontrolled. The suppression collar that Paragus used on Broly prevented his power from manifesting fully for decades. This artificial restraint created pressure cooker effect, power building and building without healthy release. When the collar finally broke during battle with Goku and Vegeta, the accumulated power erupted with volcanic force. Broly's wrathful form accessed great ape power without physical transformation, suggesting he had instinctively developed techniques for using Saiyan abilities in novel ways. His isolation meant he had no teachers or examples to follow, so he invented his own methods for channeling power. The results were crude but effective. The actual Super Saiyan transformation, when it came, was explosive beyond anything seen before. Broly's grief and rage at Paragus's death, combined with his already astronomical power level and unstable psychology, the transformation was not clean ascension but eruption of power that barely stayed contained within his body. Broly's lack of control over Super Saiyan form made him incredibly dangerous but also vulnerable in ways. He fought on pure instinct, without strategy or technique. Against skilled opponents like Gogeta, this limitation proved exploitable despite his overwhelming raw power. Instinct alone could not match experience and training. The potential for Broly to learn control over his transformation remained high, given his adaptability and rapid growth during battle. With proper training and stable environment, he might master Super Saiyan and even surpass it through legitimate means rather than pure rage. His story was unfinished, potential unrealized. Goku Jr. and Vegeta Jr. represented final evolution of Super Saiyan genetics, the transformation passing down through so many generations that barely any pure Saiyan blood remained, yet they could still transform, showing that genetic predisposition had become so embedded it persisted through extreme dilution. Goku Jr.'s peaceful upbringing and gentle personality made him seem unlikely Super Saiyan candidate initially. He was a timid child who avoided conflict, more interested in normal childhood activities than martial arts. The Saiyan heritage seemed dormant in him, barely affecting his personality or interests. The journey to Mount Paozu that forced Goku Jr. to find courage within himself was transformative beyond just unlocking Super Saiyan. He discovered strength he did not know he possessed, bravery that surprised himself. The physical transformation was external manifestation of internal growth he experienced. The demon that threatened his bear friend triggered Goku Jr.'s transformation through protective instinct rather than personal danger. Like many hybrids before him, his power awakened to protect others rather than himself. This pattern suggested that compassionate motivation was a particularly effective trigger for hybrid Saiyans. The amnesia regarding his transformation afterwards suggested Goku Jr.'s first transformation was partially unconscious, his body accessing power while his mind was overwhelmed by emotion. This dissociative quality was not uncommon in traumatic first transformations, the experience being too intense to process fully in the moment. Vegeta Jr.'s transformation presumably followed different path given his competitive nature and relationship with Goku Jr. Their rivalry, while less intense than their ancestors, still drove both to improve. Vegeta Jr. likely achieved Super Saiyan through determination to match his rival rather than protective instinct. The tournament, where both demonstrated controlled Super Saiyan ability, showed they had mastered transformation between their first achievement and this later appearance. Both could transform at will, maintain the form comfortably, and fight effectively while transformed. The techniques their ancestors struggled to learn came naturally to them. The training methods that led to their mastery remained mysterious, but presumably they had guidance from older generations who remembered the original Z fighters. Pan would have been alive during their childhoods, able to share stories and perhaps basic training. This connection to history helped them understand their heritage. The existence of these future Saiyans suggested that Super Saiyan would remain part of Saiyan identity indefinitely. Even a century after the original transformations, even with bloodlines diluted to tiny percentages, the legendary power persisted. It had become permanent addition to Saiyan genetics. Gogeta and Vegito's instant access to Super Saiyan upon fusion demonstrated how thoroughly integrated the transformation had become for Goku and Vegeta. The fusion did not need to learn or practice transformation because both components knew it so completely. The knowledge and ability were inseparable from their identities. The power multiplication effect of fusion combined with Super Saiyan created exponential scaling that put fusion warriors in completely different category from individual fighters. Base Gogeta or Vegito already exceeded their components' strongest forms. Adding Super Saiyan on top of that fusion multiplier resulted in power that seemed almost infinite. Gotenks transformation represented youngest fusion achieving Super Saiyan, the combined age of Gotenk and Trunks still resulting in child warrior. His playful attitude while transformed showed that mastery and seriousness were not synonymous. Power could be wielded with joy and creativity rather than grim determination. The transformation training that occurred between the different sagas and series created progression that fans could follow. Each time skip allowed characters to master previous transformations and achieve new ones. This pacing kept transformations feeling earned rather than arbitrary. The hyperbolic time chamber became crucial training location for multiple Saiyans learning transformation control. The time dilation allowed years of practice in single day, accelerating development dramatically. The harsh environment also pushed trainees to their limits naturally. Gravity chamber training established by Vegeta became standard method for building base power sufficient for transformation. The principle of training under enhanced gravity to build strength translated well across different skill levels and goals. Even characters who never transformed used gravity training for general improvement. Meditation and mental training grew in importance as Saiyans realized transformation was as much psychological as physical. Learning to control emotions, access specific feelings on demand, and maintain clarity under stress all required mental discipline that complemented physical training. Sparring with other Super Saiyans provided learning opportunities impossible to replicate otherwise. Fighting someone who could match transformed strength taught lessons that overwhelming weaker opponents never could. These training battles were crucial for developing technique and strategy. The environmental conditions under which transformations occurred varied widely, each setting contributing unique elements to the moment. Namek's alien landscape, with its green sky and blue grass, created surreal backdrop for Goku's first transformation. The dying planet, with Frieza's drilling beam destroying its core, added urgency and finality to the scene. Time was literally running out as the planet approached explosion. The unstable ground during transformation sequences often demonstrated the physical force being released. Goku's first transformation cracked Namek's surface, creating fissures that spread outward from where he stood. Rocks and debris levitated upward, defying gravity in response to the energy surge. The planet itself reacted to the birth of a Super Saiyan. Atmospheric effects accompanied many transformations, particularly powerful ones. Lightning crackled through clear skies, wind whipped up without natural cause, and pressure changes created audible thunder. These meteorological phenomena suggested that Super Saiyan energy interacted with planetary magnetic fields and atmospheric composition in measurable ways. The gravity of transformation planets affected how power manifested visually. On high-gravity worlds, the aura might compress closer to the body, appearing denser and more contained. On low-gravity planets, energy could expand outward more freely, creating massive auras that extended meters from the transformed Saiyan. Earth's standard gravity created baseline for how most transformations appeared. Temperature extremes during transformation were documented in various accounts. The area immediately surrounding a transforming Saiyan often became significantly hotter as excess energy radiated as heat. Snow might melt, water might evaporate, and flammable materials could potentially ignite from proximity alone. The transformation generated tremendous thermal energy that had to disperse somehow. Arctic environments provided interesting contrast to Super Saiyan's golden warmth. Broly's transformation in frozen wasteland created visual dichotomy between cold surroundings and burning energy. Steam rose where his aura touched ice, creating atmospheric effect that enhanced the dramatic moment. The environment emphasized, rather than diminished, transformation's impact. Urban settings for transformations created different dynamics entirely. Buildings and infrastructure could be damaged or destroyed by the energy release. Windows shattered from pressure waves, concrete cracked from ground vibrations, and electronic systems sometimes failed from electromagnetic interference. Cities were not built to handle such concentrated power releases. The Tournament of Powers specially constructed arena was designed to withstand Super Saiyan-level combat, but even it showed stress under particularly intense battles. Kefla's energy output cracked sections of the supposedly indestructible stage. This demonstrated that there were practical limits to how much punishment even magically reinforced structures could absorb. Space itself provided ultimate neutral environment for transformation. Without atmosphere to create visual effects, without gravity to influence energy distribution, transformations in vacuum of space appeared different from planetary ones. The aura became primary visual indicator since there was no air to ionize or dust to blow around. Underwater transformations were theoretically possible but rarely documented. The water pressure at significant depths would resist the explosive outward energy release, potentially making transformation more difficult or creating spectacular displacement of water. The visual effect of Super Saiyan aura underwater would differ substantially from air-based transformations. Dimensional boundaries created interesting interactions with transformation energy. The hyperbolic time chamber, existing partially outside normal space, seemed to handle Super Saiyan transformations without issue. However, more fragile dimensional spaces might tear or destabilize when exposed to such concentrated power. The energy output could strain the fabric of reality itself in weakened areas. Time dilation effects from Super Saiyan transformations were never conclusively proven but were occasionally theorized. Some observers reported that transformation sequences seemed to occur in slow motion, though this was likely perceptual rather than actual temporal distortion. The intensity of the moment made time seem to stretch subjectively. The age of a planet influenced how it responded to transformation energy. Younger, more geologically active worlds might react more dramatically than old, stable ones. Seismic sensors could potentially detect the vibrations from transformation sequences occurring hundreds of miles away on sensitive planets. The energy release was that substantial. Electromagnetic readings during transformations showed massive spikes across multiple spectrums. Radio frequencies experienced interference, magnetic compasses spun wildly, and sensitive electronic equipment often malfunctioned. Military organizations tracking Super Saiyans could potentially use these electromagnetic signatures to detect transformations from significant distances. The ionization of atmospheric particles created the visible aura surrounding Super Saiyans. The golden energy excited atoms and molecules, causing them to emit light in characteristic wavelengths. This meant the aura was not purely energy projection, but interaction between Saiyan power and surrounding matter. In vacuum, the aura would appear less pronounced. Radiation emissions from Super Saiyan transformation were generally non-ionizing and harmless to observers. Despite the tremendous energy involved, there were no documented cases of radiation poisoning from proximity to transformed Saiyans. Whatever physics governed the transformation apparently included safeguards against harmful radiation. Photographic and video equipment captured Super Saiyan transformations, proving the phenomenon was objectively real and not hallucination or illusion. High-speed cameras revealed details of transformation sequences that occurred too quickly for normal vision to process. These recordings became valuable documentation of the biological changes occurring. The spectroscopic analysis of Super Saiyan aura revealed unique energy signatures that did not match any known natural phenomenon. Scientists studying the transformation identified wavelengths and energy patterns that had no conventional explanation. This suggested Super Saiyan energy operated on principles outside standard physics. Temporal analysis of transformation sequences showed they occurred remarkably quickly despite appearing to take longer subjectively. Actual elapsed time from initiation to completion was typically measured in seconds. The dramatic presentation stretched these moments cinematically, but objective measurement revealed their brevity. The sound produced during transformation varied by individual and circumstance. Some transformations were accompanied by roaring energy sounds, others by crackling electricity effects, still others by deep rumbling bass tones. These auditory elements were real physical phenomena produced by rapid air displacement and energy discharge. Musical compositions inspired by these transformation sounds became part of popular culture. Composers and musicians tried to capture the essence of Super Saiyan transformation in audio form. While artistic interpretation rather than literal reproduction, these musical pieces helped convey the emotional impact to audiences. The psychological impact on observers witnessing transformations firsthand was consistently profound. The overwhelming power, the dramatic visual changes, the palpable energy in the air all combined to create memorable experiences. Many who witnessed transformations described them as life-changing moments that shifted their understanding of what was possible. Children who grew up seeing Super Saiyan transformations had different baseline assumptions about power and potential than previous generations. For them, legendary transformation was not myth but documented reality. This shifted cultural expectations and influenced how young people approached their own development and limitations. The educational integration of Super Saiyan knowledge into curricula varied by planet and culture. Some civilizations taught transformation theory as science, others as history, still others as philosophy or mythology. The interdisciplinary nature of the phenomenon made it relevant to multiple fields of study. Academic debates about transformation mechanics filled scholarly journals across the universe. Biologists, physicists, psychologists, and philosophers all contributed perspectives on how and why Super Saiyan worked. Consensus remained elusive as different theoretical frameworks emphasized different aspects. The ethical implications of transformation power created philosophical discussions that continued for generations. Questions about responsibility, about the moral weight of possessing such strength, about the relationship between power and virtue, all stemmed from Super Saiyan existence. These were not abstract debates but practical concerns with real consequences. Religious interpretations of Super Saiyan appeared in various forms across different belief systems. Some viewed transformation as divine blessing or curse, others as natural biological variation, still others as spiritual enlightenment manifesting physically. Each framework provided different meaning and significance to the same observable phenomenon. The mythology surrounding ancient Super Saiyans grew richer as modern transformations provided context for old legends. Stories that had seemed fantastic became more credible when people could see that such power was indeed possible. This created feedback loop where new achievements validated old myths, which in turn inspired new interpretations. Archaeological expeditions searching for evidence of ancient Super Saiyans found tantalizing hints but rarely conclusive proof. Destroyed worlds with energy signatures matching transformation output. Legends from multiple civilizations describing golden-haired warriors, scattered references in recovered texts, all pointed toward history of transformation predating recorded keeping. The cyclical nature of Super Saiyan history, with transformations appearing, disappearing, and reappearing over millennia, suggested larger patterns at work. Some theorists proposed that galactic conditions influenced Saiyan evolution in ways that made transformation more or less accessible during different epochs. Environmental pressures on cosmic scale might drive the cycle. Astrological significance was attributed to Super Saiyan transformations by cultures that practiced such beliefs. The alignment of stars and planets during transformation moments was analyzed for patterns, though skeptics questioned whether correlation indicated causation. Still, some insisted that cosmic positioning influenced transformation likelihood. The genetic drift across Saiyan populations over time affected transformation prevalence and characteristics. Isolated groups developed slight variations in how transformation manifested, creating regional or familial differences in the standard Super Saiyan form. These variations were minor but detectable to trained observers. Hybrid vigor in Saiyan human crosses seemed to enhance transformation potential in many cases. The genetic diversity introduced by mixing species created individuals with advantages that pure-blooded Saiyans sometimes lacked. This counterintuitive result challenged assumptions about racial purity equating to superior ability. The social stratification based on transformation ability created new class divisions in societies with Super Saiyan populations. Those who could transform held automatic status advantages, while those who could not faced potential discrimination or diminished opportunity. Progressive cultures worked to prevent such inequality, while others accepted or even institutionalized it. Economic disparities emerged from transformation-based advantages as well. Super Saiyans could perform labor or provide services that commanded premium compensation. Their rare abilities in some markets made them valuable commodities, creating wealth concentration among transformation-capable individuals unless regulated. The insurance industry's response to Super Saiyan existence ranged from refusal to cover related damages to specialized high-risk policies with astronomical premiums. Actuaries struggled to price risk that could potentially include planet-destroying battles. Some jurisdictions required Super Saiyans to carry liability insurance. Others deemed the concept unworkable. Legal frameworks defining when transformation constituted threat versus legitimate self-defense varied by jurisdiction. Some places treated any transformation as assault, Others recognized it as protected expression of natural ability. Case law developed slowly as courts grappled with unprecedented situations. The diplomatic implications of hosting Super Saiyans affected interplanetary relations significantly. Worlds with resident Super Saiyans possessed implicit military deterrent that influenced negotiations. Other planets sought to recruit or ally with Super Saiyans for security purposes, creating complex political dynamics. Military doctrine adapted to account for Super Saiyan level threats, though conventional forces recognized their limitations against such power. Strategies focused on prevention, containment, or deterrence rather than direct confrontation. The presence of even one Super Saiyan could alter the strategic calculus for entire star systems. Technological development sometimes focused on countering or matching Super Saiyan power through artificial means. Energy weapons designed to harm transformed Saiyans, armor capable of withstanding their strikes, containment fields strong enough to hold them all, represented attempts to level the playing field through engineering. The success rate of such technological solutions remained mixed at best. Each new Super Saiyan breakthrough tended to outpace technological countermeasures, creating arms race that technology consistently lost. The biological flexibility of Saiyan evolution proved faster than mechanical innovation in most cases. Cybernetic enhancement offered potential pathway for non-Saiyans to approach transformation-level power. Full-body conversion to mechanical systems could theoretically match Super Saiyan strength, though at cost of losing organic existence. Few were willing to make such sacrifice, and results remained inferior to genuine transformation. The philosophical question of whether artificially enhanced beings were fundamentally different from naturally transformed ones sparked debate. Some argued that power was power regardless of source. Others insisted that the organic nature of Super Saiyan transformation carried significance beyond mere strength measurements. Cloning technology raised possibility of artificially creating Super Saiyans by replicating transformed individuals. However, clones of Super Saiyans were born in base form and had to achieve transformation themselves, suggesting the ability was not encoded in static DNA but required specific developmental triggers. Genetic engineering attempts to create beings with guaranteed Super Saiyan capability produced mixed and often dangerous results. Unstable mutations, psychological abnormalities, and physical deformities plagued many such experiments. Natural transformation through proper development proved far more reliable than forced genetic manipulation. The preservation of Super Saiyan knowledge for future generations became priority once transformations became common enough to study systematically. Archives were established containing training methods, transformation triggers, biological data, and historical accounts. These repositories ensured that knowledge would not be lost again even if all current Super Saiyans died. Oral traditions supplemented written records, with experienced Super Saiyans sharing wisdom through personal instruction. The nuances of transformation that could not be adequately captured in text were passed teacher to student. This created lineages of knowledge that traced back through generations to the first modern transformations. The cultural significance of being first-generation Super Saiyan versus later generation affected how warriors were regarded. Goku and Vegeta held special status as rediscoverers of lost ability, while Goten and Trunks were sometimes seen as beneficiaries of their father's achievements rather than pioneers themselves. This generational distinction created subtle hierarchies. Commemorative events marking anniversaries of significant transformations became part of some cultures. The date Goku first transformed on Namek might be celebrated annually, treated as historic milestone worthy of remembrance. These celebrations kept transformation history alive in public consciousness. Museums dedicated to Super Saiyan history displayed artifacts, recordings, and educational materials about transformations. Visitors could learn transformation theory, watch historic footage, and understand the progression from ancient legend to modern reality. These institutions served both educational and memorial purposes. Simulation technology allowed people to experience approximations of what Super Saiyan transformation felt like. While unable to replicate actual power, simulators could reproduce sensory aspects and create immersive understanding. These tools proved valuable for training and for satisfying curiosity of non-Saiyans. The democratization of transformation knowledge meant that information once guarded or lost was now freely available to any Saiyan who sought it. Training guides, technique explanations, and transformation theory could be accessed through public databases. This openness accelerated the spread of Super Saiyan ability across populations. Privacy concerns arose regarding Super Saiyan registries and tracking. Some jurisdictions required registration of transformation-capable individuals for public safety, while others viewed such databases as discriminatory invasions of privacy. The balance between security and freedom remained a contentious political issue. The psychological support systems for newly transformed Saiyans developed to help them adjust to sudden power increase. Counselors specialized in transformation-related issues provided guidance on managing strength, controlling emotions, and integrating new abilities into daily life. These services helped prevent accidents and psychological problems. Peer support groups allowed Super Saiyans to share experiences with others who understood their unique circumstances. Discussing challenges and solutions with fellow transformed warriors provided validation and practical advice. These communities formed both locally and across interplanetary communication networks. The media portrayal of Super Saiyans evolved from sensationalized coverage to more nuanced understanding over time. Early reports focused on spectacle and danger. Later coverage recognized complexity and humanity of transformed individuals. This maturation reflected broader society learning to coexist with Super Saiyan power. Entertainment media featuring Super Saiyan characters ranged from documentary to fictional dramatization. Biographical films depicted real transformations, while fictional stories used Super Saiyans as characters in invented narratives. Both genres contributed to cultural understanding and mythologization of transformation. The merchandising of Super Saiyan imagery generated substantial commercial activity. Action figures, clothing, accessories, and countless other products featured golden-haired warriors. This commercialization spread transformation iconography far beyond those directly involved with actual Saiyans. Cosplay and costume recreation of Super Saiyan appearance became a popular hobby. Fans created elaborate costumes complete with light-up hair and artificial auras. Conventions and gatherings featured competitions for best Super Saiyan costume, creating subcultures around transformation aesthetics. The fitness industry adapted Super Saiyan training methods for general populations. While non-Saiyans could not actually transform, the strength training and gravity conditioning principles could benefit anyone. Gyms advertised Saiyan-style workouts that promised dramatic results through intense regimens. Nutritional science examined the dietary requirements of Super Saiyans to understand and meet their unique needs. The caloric demands of transformation and the specific nutrients required for optimal performance became research subjects. Specialized meal plans for transformation-capable individuals were developed and marketed. The linguistic impact of Super Saiyan terminology spread across languages and cultures. Phrases like "going Super Saiyan" entered common usage as metaphor for surpassing limits or accessing hidden potential. The transformation became shorthand for dramatic improvement across various contexts. Academic analysis of Super Saiyan as cultural phenomenon produced scholarly works examining its significance from sociological, psychological, and anthropological perspectives. These studies treated transformation not just as biological fact, but as culturally meaningful event that revealed deeper truths about society and individuals. The environmental movement sometimes invoked Super Saiyan imagery when advocating for planetary protection. The irony that Super Saiyan battles often caused environmental damage was noted, but the symbolism of power used to protect rather than destroy resonated with conservationist messaging. Political movements occasionally adopted Super Saiyan symbolism, though specific interpretations varied wildly. Some saw transformation as metaphor for revolutionary change, others for conservative preservation of traditional strength. The imagery proved flexible enough to serve multiple ideological purposes. The relationship between Super Saiyan transformation and concepts of destiny versus choice sparked philosophical debate. Some argued that Saiyans were destined for transformation, that it was an inevitable expression of their nature. Others insisted transformation required choice and effort, making it achievement rather than destiny. Free will questions arose regarding transformation's relationship to emotion and circumstance. If specific triggers caused transformation automatically, did that suggest determinism rather than agency? Or did the ability to master and control transformation restore volition? These questions had no simple answers. The existential implications of possessing transformation ability affected some Saiyans' sense of identity and purpose. Being capable of becoming Super Saiyan raised questions about responsibility, about what one should do with such power. These weren't abstract puzzles, but practical concerns about how to live meaningfully. The artistic expression through Super Saiyan power created new aesthetic possibilities. Energy manipulation could be used sculptural. Painters could incorporate actual transformation energy into works, and performances could feature controlled power demonstrations as art form. The boundary between combat and art blurred. Literary works explored Super Saiyan experience from countless angles. Autobiographies by transformed Saiyans, fictional narratives using transformation as plot device, poetry capturing transformation's emotional essence all contributed to growing canon of Super Saiyan literature. The theatrical presentation of transformation stories brought them to stage and screen in new interpretations. Live performances with special effects recreated famous transformation moments, while animated and live-action adaptations told both historical and fictional Super Saiyan tales. These productions kept transformation culturally relevant. Music inspired by Super Saiyan transformation ranged from orchestral compositions to electronic remixes of transformation themes. Musicians across genres found inspiration in the drama and power of transformation, creating works that captured its essence in purely audio form. These pieces became part of transformation's cultural footprint. Dance interpretations of transformation attempted to convey through movement what Super Saiyan represented. Choreographers created pieces that expressed the struggle, breakthrough, and power of transformation through physical performance. These dance works brought kinesthetic understanding to transformation's meaning. The culinary arts even incorporated Super Saiyan themes, with foods named after transformations or designed to appeal to Saiyan appetites. Restaurants offered Super Saiyan challenges, featuring enormous portions, while others created elegant dishes inspired by transformation aesthetics. Food culture absorbed the phenomenon in its own way. Fashion design, influenced by Super Saiyan appearance, created clothing lines featuring golden colors, spiky patterns, and energy-inspired aesthetics. High fashion and streetwear both drew inspiration from transformation iconography, making it visible in daily life beyond just combat situations. Architecture occasionally incorporated Super Saiyan themes into building design. Training facilities built to withstand transformation-level forces. Monuments commemorating historic transformations. Even decorative elements suggesting transformation energy all appeared in constructed environments. The urban planning implications of hosting Super Saiyan populations affected city design. Designated training areas, reinforced construction in certain zones, emergency protocols for transformation-related incidents, all became considerations for planners in regions with Saiyan residents. The night grows deeper now as we near the end of this journey through transformation and legend. Each Saiyan we discuss tonight found their own path to the golden hair and emerald eyes. Some walked roads of rage and grief, others paths of joy and discovery. Some struggled for years, others achieved transformation in moments. But all of them proved that limits exist only until someone decides to surpass them. The transformation that began as ancient myth became modern reality through the determination of warriors who refused to accept impossibility. Their achievements created ripples across space and time, inspiring future generations and parallel universes to reach for the same heights. The legend that was dismissed for 1,000 years now lives in children barely old enough to understand what power they possess. Perhaps that is the true lesson of Super Saiyan transformations. Not that some warriors are chosen or destined for greatness, but that potential sleeps in unexpected places, waiting for the right moment to awaken. The universe is full of sleeping legends, dormant possibilities, powers that seem impossible until someone proves otherwise. Thanks for drifting through these Dragon Ball stories with me tonight. If you're ready for more, there's another calm video waiting just to the left. Let it guide you deeper into rest. You might fall asleep to something new.